Hello everyone, welcome to another stream! How's everyone doing? I just got done seeing Barbie with Baja. It was good. We both enjoyed it very much. How's everyone doing? Let's see what I missed in the chat while everyone was getting ready. Let's see. Hello everyone who's here. Railcast, thanks for 30 months, says, do you? I assume that was, you accidentally hit enter too fast on that one. What else? Lady Ann, thanks for 35 months, says, glad you like the gifts. At the risk of self-promotion, I do commissions for prints and vinyl stickers through my, do you pronounce this coffee? Or is it Kofi? Either way. There you go. Woo! Woo! Check out the link. By the way, I think tomorrow we're going to do a stream earlier in the day where we're just going to look at right-wing Barbie reviews and how terrible they are. So that'll be fun if you've seen Barbie. Or not. I'll try not to spoil it too much. Altered Undying says, I'm great, made it on Blue Sky and followed you. Thank you, I need to start posting on there more. Astrofox says, officially on HRT, congratulations. Do I have any tips for a Trump indictment conspiracy? Not anything really. I haven't looked at the QAnon stuff in a bit. I've been focused on the BBBYQ stuff and this guy, so. Bittergrin says, Barbie, 77% to level 1 on a hype train. Anthony Fantano is being sued over something incredibly stupid. Oh god. His TikTok pizza meme? I'm familiar with his work. I watched his, Doug Walker's The Wall review. But I don't know much more about him. I don't even know what the pizza meme is, if I'm being honest. So we have a King of Canada and a Queen of Canada. Can we get them to fight in a mud wrestling pit or wrestling ring for dominance? No. See, this guy doesn't think he's the King of Canada. He thinks he took land and seceded from Canada. It's a Molossia situation, except he's serious, whereas the Molossia guy, it's a joke. 77% to level 1. Strumboli says, the Barbies and Small Soldiers awakened something in me. Haven't been quite right since. Thanks, 90s kids movies. Here's my brief review of Barbie. It was good. It was really fun. Visually, it was funny. I can see why Chuds didn't like it. I said this to Baja, and I think this is true, especially in 1 week it broke over $500 million. I'm just saying, if this thing goes over $1 billion, it very well might be the most widely spread popular piece of feminist media in history. And I'm not even joking. It's a great movie. Really liked it. It was like a meta-commentary, but also it was almost a meta-commentary on meta-commentary. It was great. I loved it. It was cute. Mr. Whiskers, thanks for 100 bits. Margot Robbie was great as Barbie. Ryan Gosling was fucking hilarious as Ken. Overall, just really great. Really fun movie. I'd recommend it. To anyone, basically. Unless you're a chud, but you should still go see it, because maybe you'll learn something. Mr. Whiskers, thanks for 100 bits. I think I said that, but I wanted to make sure. 86% to level 1. So today we're going to be looking at an interesting fella. If you were watching the YouTube stream yesterday, because if you missed it, I do streams on YouTube now on Thursdays. So you can catch me over on YouTube on Thursdays if you want to be part of those streams. They're less single category streams and we more just look at whatever. That's actually how we came across this guy. This guy who I've done a little bit of investigating about before the stream. Found some interesting stuff. He seems to believe that he has taken a piece of public land in Canada and Seceded, because he says so. It's kind of Sob City, but it also seems like there's sort of some, like, Christian nationalism going on. So it's kind of an interesting mix of things. Delusion, CPS, his kids are involved. It's a whole fucking thing. And like the title says, it's not Marcel. It's a different guy in Canada. Pummel Homestead with 200 bits says, USPS says your BBBYQ baskets should be there tomorrow. Fuck yes. Thank you. Mr. Whiskers says, screw it, have another hundo. Thank you very much. Run Trip Fall, thanks for 11 months, says, train. Sume says, tangent, but we all know that Lucas didn't have a plan for the movies, right? A New Hope wasn't meant to have a sequel. In a novelization of Empire Strikes Back, Luke and Leia have relations, and then he made them siblings because Lucas is insane. Anyway, tangent, Hannah, you look lovely today. Thank you. Mightiest Quinn with 45 bits says, have my bits, and also I got overalls for the first time and I cannot describe the gender euphoria they give me. I just really love them and I'm telling everyone. That weirdly gives me flashbacks when I was really young in elementary school. In, I think, even kindergarten, but the kindergarten was still in the same school that I, like, went to elementary to because it was a private Baptist church/school. And we did, a little play for the like, kindergarten graduation or whatever, and the play was... What's the little, like, kid story, folk tale, fable, Aesop's fable about, like... the farm animal that, like, puts a lot of work into, like, making some bread, and the other farm animals don't want to help, so then they don't get bread. That's a specific fable, I think. Someone let me know if you remember the one. Little Red Hen. Thank you. We did, a little kindergarten interpretation of Little Red Hen, and I played the farmer who ground the wheat. And I remember, because I had to pretend there was a thing to grind the wheat. So I had to do this. Anyway, when we were, getting ready and practicing for, like, with our costumes and stuff, there were overalls there that were, like, girls' overalls. It was someone else's from the class, but I was, like, excited. I was like, do I get to wear those overalls? They weren't. They weren't the overalls I was going to wear. Anyway, anyone who tells you there aren't trans kids doesn't know what they're talking about. Rachology says, I'm totally knackered. Spent the day traveling back from London to see an old friend who's in the country for a few days. We went to the Cartoon Museum, which also covers comics. There I found out that in 1950s there was a totally unofficial female James Bond spin-off comic strip called Jane Bond that ran for years in the UK. No one tell the chuds, they'll have a 70-year too late meltdown about it. Sage John, thank you for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Profane Priestess says, my preschool also did that. Pre-K play twins. 94% to level 3. Very nice, very nice. Oh, I had a nice day out, chat. It was a nice date with my wife. It was cute. I wore, like, pink eyeshadow, and there's pink on the skirt of this dress. I don't own anything that's, like, primarily pink, but this is the pinkiest thing that I pretty much have. I guess I do have a different pink dress, but this one's really cute. So, no pockets, but it is cute. And I also had these glasses, and they did have the, if you've probably seen pictures on social media of, like, the Barbie box standee, so it looks like you're a Barbie in a box. We got to take some pictures with it. It was a fun time. And we went to the dollar store before we went to the theater, so we didn't have to pay exorbitant fees to get, soda and candy or whatever. Paid $1 for snow caps at the store. They're like $7 at the movie theater. It's the same box of snow caps. I can't in good conscience pay that much for what is essentially semi-sweet chocolate and other tiny white things. Mr. Whiskers says, I lovely dress, fit check pass. Sume says the biggest sacrifice you made as a woman, pockets. Also being taken seriously by certain men, but it is what it is. I have been made aware through my studies that the name that he has taken as the king, which if you didn't catch it in my Twitter post, the name that this guy took when he created his kingdom is His Majesty King Regis Lucius I, which when I googled brought up a bunch of Final Fantasy shit. So apparently that's a character from Final Fantasy. It seems like this crazy guy took his king name from Final Fantasy. Nemesaur, thanks for gifting 10 tier 1 subs. Wow, thank you very much. And Sume says, Hannah, I never took you seriously, though. Did you even watch before I was out? Oh. You did? Oh, that's gotta be weird. It's weird enough for me. I don't remember. I don't remember. I'm sorry. Apparently I'm terrible. 91% to level 5. So anyway, like I said, Barbie... What? One sec. I forgot! You're the durian fucker! You fucking sent the durian! How did I forget that? Why haven't I banned you permanently? What the fucking hell, man? My stupid fucking life is just weird. Anyway, so yeah, Barbie was good. Had a nice day out. That was nice. What about Bob? Thanks for 28 months. M. Scheffler, thanks for 22 months, says, wait, what is on the schedule for today? We're going to take a look at the kingdom of His Majesty King Regis Lucius I. All of this is publicly available on the internet, by the way. I only say this because this psycho, I don't know if anyone else has already covered him in a commentary channel manner, but he already put out an official state document from the sovereign state of Teos that says, like, hey, don't commentary channel me. But I'm gonna do that, because I'm legally allowed to do it, and if he wants to file some sort of extradition from the United States to Teos, I wish him luck. 37% to level 6. Sorry, MH Dark Beast, you're not a pain, that's my fault. Says, idly, Hannah, did you see that the Patrick Show has a Bubble Bass as the nostalgia critic? Are you fucking kidding me? Let me see.
At home! So kids, staying in the toaster.
Oh my god! Hilarious. Beautiful. Okay, let's see what else I've missed. Bittergrin says, but Regis Lucius isn't even the king's name. Regis Lucius just meant King of Lucius. Of course it does. Regis. That makes sense. His name should at least be Regis Teos. You expect him to understand that? Mr. Whiskers, thanks for gifting a sub. Dead by Goth, thanks for gifting a sub. That brings us up to date, 51% to level 6. Okay, well the hype train's still going. We can get into this. Let's start with this video. We watched about 5 minutes of this yesterday, so I won't try and dwell too much on the first 5 minutes. But this is basically his 40-minute manifesto on YouTube. It's on BitChute, it's on Rumble. It's in like 3 or 4 different languages, some of which he just subtitled, some of which he speaks. He's from, or at least lives in or around Quebec. So he does speak French Canadian as well. It does also look like from some of his videos he may speak Spanish. So he's definitely a polyglot, which is cool. Unfortunately, he seems to also be kind of off his rocker. Profane Priestess says, oh, I have awesome news, Hannah. I have my last final exam Monday for my associate's degree, and I'll be graduating with honors. I'm so proud of myself, and soon I'll be moving on to finish my bachelor's. Have some bits in celebration. Oh, that's great. I'm very proud of you parasocially. That's awesome. 20 seconds left on the hype, and let's get into this guy's diatribe about why he feels he needed to secede from Canada.
Hello everyone, I'm a living man and a living soul, and I present myself to you today in person as King Regis Lucius I.
So he's basically King Lucius I.
I am both the creator and the head of state of a new country, a new state, which is called the state of Taos. Now, it's not every day that you hear about a new state. You'll have to give that, but there are reasons why and how we got from there to here. And in this overview video, we'll kind of touch a bit of the overview, and in the future we'll probably have more videos where we'll look into...
He wants to be separate from a country within a province that also wants to be separate from Canada. Yeah, it's like an island in a lake, in an island in an ocean.
The detail or in depth into each.
Or like an island in a pond, on a island in a lake, on another island in an ocean.
Of the themes that we'll just be kind of touching quickly today. So what's happening is in the world, tyranny is increasing extremely quickly.
I do get the vibe that his version of tyranny is just like, hey, maybe get vaccinated, and also your kids need to learn math.
Growing. Now,
because he homeschools his children. Whatever he considers homeschooling horrifies me.
In the older days, the states, countries or states that used to be known for being fair, for being just.
Ah, yes. Nations of the past that are known for being fair and just. Here's a list of all the nations in the past that are specifically known for being fair and just to all of its people. That's just ahistorical. That's literally never been any country. What are you talking about? Hikation, thanks for 29 months.
Recently are turning to injustice.
Recently? Guys, have you considered that recently some countries might be turning to injustice? Never before in Canadian history has there been injustice against any human being, okay? Just don't look into it, literally at all. Poetic Fox says, we just had a false alarm for an active shooter event and now my nerves are on fire. Oh my god, I am so sorry.
And persecution to justify their commercial goals.
This bracelet is cute, but it's a little clacky, so I'm going to take it off. But notice the bracelet. It goes with the outfit. It's cute. And now it's not clacky.
That's a serious issue in itself, because what's happening is it's happening worldwide at the same time. So you have a lot of states that are kind of coordinating in increasing tyranny, or increasing the darkness is increasing worldwide simultaneously.
Vague statements about darkness and tyranny. Sounds like he listens to some of the conspiracy theorists we watch on this show. Kano Cable, what would you like me to wear for the hats off?
This is a big issue.
BK Crown? Okay, alright. This is the sovereign state of fast foodia. Heart disease and diabetes for all. So say we all. I was at there's like a used media store I go to a lot. You know, Blu-rays, you guys know how I am. They also sell used video games, though, which is always fun. And they had Sneak King for like $1. And if anyone remembers Sneak King, I got my Xbox 360 on Christmas with 3 games, okay? The games were Destroy All Humans 2, which was not backwards compatible with the 360 at the time, so I couldn't play it. Destroy All Humans 1, which I could play, and I love Destroy All Humans to this day. The remakes are also excellent, and they finally remade 2, so I finally did get to play 2, which is nice. And the third game, or wait, was that the first one? No. Was that one? It was... Oh, Destroy All Humans 1 and 2, one of which played, the other didn't, and then Sneak King because they were it was if you don't remember, Sneak King was a Burger King video game that you could get at Burger King for a short period of time, where you played the creepy Burger King mascot and snuck up on people and gave them food. I should have bought it. I should have bought Sneak King.
Now, one of the issues that we have is that in our days, is countries have grown probably too big. Now, in the older days, when you had a nation, was a village, I mean, or a certain small amount of people, it was not necessarily huge. But nowadays, we live in times where countries are millions.
We looked this up yesterday. The Roman Empire was in the tens of millions of people. TubeMan642, thanks for 36 months, says, all my Sneak King fans rise up. I should say at its peak, the Roman Empire was at like 75 million, it's estimated, something like that.
Hundreds of millions are not so rare, and you have more. Now what happens...
But I do understand the concept, to be clear, that centralized power has changed since the advent of things like radio and, television, quick communication and transport. I understand.
The problem with that is that a single state, will usually have a unified vision, a unified goal of where it wants to go.
I don't think that that's true. Oh, it was a sub-baby? Sorry, this sub-baby's name is gonna be... Ken. This sub-baby's name is Ken. I think the idea that, like, states in the past had a unified vision is also not true. That implies that there weren't internal political struggles in nations in the past, and I will point to all of human history to show that that's not true. So, you could maybe argue that power was more centralized in individuals in monarchies and stuff like that, so the resources of the nation could theoretically be all pointed towards one direction more easily, but that doesn't mean there wasn't dissent. It's just that dissenters didn't have a voice to voice their disapproval. They had no power to fight back with. So the idea that, like, they were more unified, not necessarily. It depends. I don't disagree that certainly there were states in the past that were more, homogeneous, I guess. They were more similar than we are, like, diverse, because I understand, especially in North America, we have a lot of, like, people who come from all sorts of different places and different cultures. So there is, like, diversity in that, which I think is a good thing. But still, the idea that people didn't see each other as different back in the day is just crazy. We just divide ourselves based on different arbitrary guidelines,
But with a large population, what will happen is, well, of course, you're going to have a certain portion of the population which will be pleased with the directions of the state. That's fine. But inevitably, you're going to have others that will not be represented in those choices, in those decisions. Well, we could say that historically, then it wasn't so bad if some people were not represented in where the state was headed, because as long as they were respected in their dissension,
not a thing for most of history.
Of this.
The concept of citizenry having the capability to exert power and influence over the government by addressing grievances either through, like, direct action or petition is a relatively new invention, or at least not invention, it's relatively new in how widespread it is, right? Does he think, like, let's say it's feudal France, and you're a peasant or whatever, do you think you going up to the castle and being like, fuck the lords, fuck them, or whatever the, medieval equivalent of a middle finger would be? You think that was considered like, oh, they're just protesting. That's fine. Famously, and again, I'm sorry, I'm focusing, like, on Europe. I don't know much about, like, Japan or China's history or the Korea or any of that stuff. I'm sorry. But anyway, look at, like, the Catholic Church or sectarian conflict throughout history. The idea that, like, we didn't have conflict until recently is so insane.
Direction was fine. Just take a back seat to the whole thing and stop. But what's happening more and more nowadays is that the states are beginning to punish people, their own citizens, for thinking differently or thinking or thinking how the state does not want you to think.
Based on another thing we're going to look at later, his children were taken away by CPS. I'm not sure the specific reason. I might look into it during this stream and try and find some public records about it off screen, and I'll share, information that might be relevant. But just be aware when he's talking about, tyranny, he's talking about CPS taking his children because he's supposed to be homeschooling them, and he's like, they want me to be teaching them things I don't agree with. Okay, what things? He's very vague about it, at least in the first 5 minutes. Chromatic Cuttlefish says the Digitus Imputicus goes back at least as far as Rome. Profane Priestess says 1 million people lived in the city of Rome alone at its peak. Secondary regional hubs like Alexandria often came in at roughly half that. Large nations that assimilate great numbers of people is nothing new. If you consider the Catholic Church an empire, which you should, the entire Western world was ruled by a single person, at least indirectly. The Mongols ruled the most contiguous land of every polity in history. Vast nation building is not new, we just rely more on soft power now.
Now, one of the concepts that is being pushed a lot in our times is the concept of diversity and inclusion. Hey, diversity is good. We need
diversity is good.
Diversity.
It's also just, whether or not you think it's good, it's inevitable, so learn to live in reality where people are all different so you can get along with others. Regardless of your personal feelings, which are probably shitty if you think diversity is inherently some sort of bad thing, learn to be an adult. People aren't going to think the same as you. People aren't going to believe all the same thing as you. People aren't all going to look the same way you do. It's fine. Grow up. Kano Cable says CDN exchange bits. I don't get it.
Yeah.
CDN.
That's fine for states within a very narrow spectrum of choices. Oh, no, diversity is great. Oh, yes, we need neurodiversity. Yeah. But if
there is neurodiversity, and you should treat people with respect and humanity, regardless of if they are neurodiverse or neurotypical, is the point that has gone over your head.
If you get out...
This is why I wear a Burger King crown. Nothing can go over my head. It'll get caught in my cardboard crown.
If you come out of that narrow spectrum...
Canadian exchange bits. That makes sense.
...of thought. And you're diverse in your thinking, not the way they want you, all of a sudden diversity doesn't get respected anymore.
Kind of depends on what specific ideas you're talking about. Would you like to elucidate?
You're a dissenter. You're a troublemaker. And then they're gonna persecute for that. Increasingly, citizens are being persecuted for thinking differently or wanting to live differently than the unified vision of the state, which is more and more tending to force a single way to live on people. Well, that's a big issue. You also have the courts of justice, and more they are becoming courts of injustice.
Got 'em.
Now, the thing about courts is, at least in concept and historically, is courts would be fair and impartial.
Yes, historically, the courts have been fair to everyone, regardless of any factors involving their identity. If you don't look at history literally at all.
And
Again, all of this seems to be based on this weird golden age that he's imagining. This is a common thing amongst reactionary types and conspiracy people. There's a commonality in the thinking, and it usually comes down to this idea that there is some imagined golden age in the past. Usually it depends on when they're born. So for a lot of people, my dad, for instance, huge right-wing Trump supporter type, his ideal is the 1950s, even though he was born in the 60s. It was before he was born, just slightly. And he got that perception from Leave It to Beaver and stuff. Literally, I had a discussion one time with him where I was he was describing his ideal world, and it was basically Leave It to Beaver. And I was like, the real world in the 50s wasn't Leave It to Beaver. That was a TV show. Meanwhile, all these other things were happening, and I listed, shitty things that happened in the 50s, including, segregation and all sorts of horrible things. And he was just like, no, it was like Leave It to Beaver. He just didn't give a shit. So people have a tendency to imagine the past as being some idealized thing. It makes me wonder, I think John Doyle types probably still imagine the 50s. You see this like when he's wearing the fedora in John Doyle's intro and stuff. It's very weird. My dad is deluded. Oh, I'm very aware. There's a reason we don't talk. I have no interest. Ah! That is so loud. What in the world? It's also probably copyrighted, so I'll turn the music off. Was this like a 40K thing?
The job
Hydrate.
of the court would be to...
Do I think my dad thought segregation was horrible? I genuinely don't know. I think he would say it is, but I don't know if he really believes that. It's kind of hard to say. For instance, when I was younger, I heard him talk to like one time, I'll just give you an example. We got into a cab. We were on vacation in a city, and we got in a cab, and the guy who excuse me, the guy that we got in the cab of was someone from another country. I don't know, somewhere in maybe Southeast Asia. Doesn't matter. Whatever. He just had some sort of accent, and he, wasn't a white guy. Whatever. Who cares? People are from all over. My dad was so disrespectful to this guy immediately that I was so young, and even I was like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, he talked to this guy in a way I had never heard him talk to someone before. It was disgusting. He also, at some point, saw a doctor who happened to be a guy who was from India, and he had immigrated, and my dad was so shitty about it. Like, he's your doctor. What the fuck are you talking about? He's genuinely just a terrible person. But he thinks he's not. Of course he's not. He can't be wrong. The rest of the world's wrong. He can never be wrong. Jesus Christ.
Verify the facts from all sides, and then adjudicate based on the results of the facts, no matter where the decision is. But what's happening in our times is not so much that anymore, but rather the state has a predetermined...
I'll give you another example, too. This was, like, him and I were already not talking before I came out, but then I came out, and I was still talking to my mom at this point, and she offhandedly mentioned to me that she was naming me correctly in front of him, because by that point I had, chosen the name Hannah, and he literally, apparently he said to her, don't do that, don't call incorrect gender that in front of me, don't do that to me. He's just a very self-interested person who doesn't really care about other people except in the ways that they make him feel. It's unfortunate. But on the bright side, he is a alcoholic, overweight, smokes weed all the fucking time. Like not even vape, like smokes it. And he smokes cigars sometimes, at least he used to. So he probably won't live like super long. So that's good. And no one in his life loves him, which is also good. I talked to my uncle a little while back, and he also had some opinions on my dad. Anyway, Cold Stare with 35 months says, you're valid, fuck him. Oh, I know. It was sad, too, and I know this is getting, personal. But it's whatever. The last time I really saw him in person was a trip to Florida because his dad, my grandfather, had died of cancer. And on that trip, oh my god, he was just awful, and he got so drunk, and the whole family saw it. It was fucking pathetic. Anyway.
Determined goal that he wants to achieve. And then the courts are there to justify the decision of the state. And if the courts were to apply fairness and justice, but the result would be not what the state wants, then courts corrupted and deny justice. Now, I've seen that with my own eyes, and I'll get back to that. Through all this increasing persecution of the state worldwide, is that good people are being hurt simply for wanting to live differently or for believing differently.
Again, he's being so vague. For wanting to believe differently. Believe what? What do you believe differently? Can you be specific? Because I feel like the vagueness here is intentional, because you know if people heard the real things you believe, they'd immediately be like, oh, I see why people don't like you. Kano Cable, thanks for gifting 2 tier 1 subs. Chromatic Cuttlefish says, this guy is really going the extra 1.6 kilometers with putting the sovereign into Sob Sit, isn't he? Just send your kids to a school like a normal living man, Wingnut. How old is this video? This was posted in January of this year.
Believes in the state. Some people are arrested and sent to prison for crimes that are not crimes.
I mentioned this yesterday. Don't confuse legality with morality. I don't agree that people get arrested for, like, non-violent drug offenses, but they do. You can say that that law is immoral and should be overturned, but it isn't illegal, or it isn't legal just because you don't like the law.
What's next? Gulags? Work camps?
Prisons are already often work camps, basically. At least in the US. I don't know what it's like in Canada.
Seen before. We've got good families.
Oh, the quality's definitely bad. It's probably a camera he's had for a really long time, or he doesn't know how to use it.
Being destroyed. Kids kidnapped by states for no reason at all other than maybe they homeschool and do not want to teach what the state wants them to learn.
I want to know so bad what he doesn't want his kids to learn. And what was he teaching them in homeschool?
It's against freedom. It's happening more and more.
What about your kids' freedom to not be raised to be an isolated wingnut? Shouldn't they have a chance to be a normal person who functions in society and isn't an antisocial psycho peddling nonsense on the internet?
Human rights are being denied. Now, you have to think of that. Now, human rights are essential. The basic human and personal rights are the basics of the very structure of justice. And you have international treaties enforced by the United Nations and other organizations, and big countries are legally bound, signatory to these treaties, and are legally bound to implement these.
International law is kind of a weird area because it kind of comes down to who's gonna make ya. You know what I mean? Think about this. The UN had like a resolution that voted like, hey, United States, don't invade Iraq. And the United States just did. Like, yes, I think the UN's a good thing, and I'm glad it remains open for diplomatic channels and to try and solve problems diplomatically and to keep communications open between nations, even if they might be hostile in some way. But, like, it kind of comes down to, make me. What are you gonna do about it if you decide not to follow it, you know? Like, Saudi Arabia was on the Human Rights Committee at the UN for a while. I don't know if they still are, but let's not pretend it's some, like, official global government that everyone takes super seriously.
Rights. And yet, in courts, they deny.
MH Darkbeast says, speaking of shitty people, did you see the largest school district in Texas is eliminating libraries for discipline centers? I saw. What the fuck is a discipline center? I tweeted about this. And some people said, like, oh, in-school suspension. No. My school had in-school suspension. It was not called a discipline, like, area. It wasn't called, like, a discipline center. What the fuck does that even mean? Like, that's fucking dystopian phrasing.
These rights, even if they must.
And even that in-school suspension was basically just in an empty classroom. Like, it wasn't a discipline center.
Implemented because it may not give what they want. Justified persecution. Governments are supposed, yes, they work for the state, but part of the governments is also to work for the citizens. The citizens should be represented in their governments, and the government should work for the people.
They are and they do. Just because you don't like that the majority of people in Canada don't hold your political positions doesn't mean that people aren't being heard. It means that you don't like that your positions are not the general primary positions of people within the society that you live in. Sume says... No.
But more...
No, that's a timeout. That makes me uncomfortable. Oof.
More what's happening is you have international interests, foreign interests, powerful foreign interests, and they manage to infiltrate government, and through that corruption the government start working against the citizens, but rather for the interests of these international organizations. That's happening nearly everywhere right now, and we're seeing the effects very quickly in our time. But the thing is that the citizens of a state have the right to be represented by the state. They have the right to live in...
Right, but that doesn't mean that every individual position that you hold has to be done by the government because everyone, like, one person believes it. Like, if we made rules based on the whims of any random person and all of them had to come into being, first of all, many of them would contradict each other. Second of all, a lot of people are fucking crazy. Like, that's a terrible idea. Like, I cover a lot of people on this show. I don't want flat earthers making decisions about NASA's budget. You know? Maybe they're just not qualified to do it. Fedekagami says, shitty dads are just a problem for our generation. My dad is not as bad as yours, but he's still self-centered like yours. All three of his sons, me included, are neurodivergent, and he never learned how to deal with it. My baby brother had it the worst, plus epilepsy, and for years they could never bond because my dad never wanted to give my brothers interest a try. When my niece was born and my dad got a new partner, they bonded over fatherhood, but it's still rough. It makes me wonder in, like, the United States... and other countries as well, if, like, this is just a bullshit, like, nonsense conspiracy theory bullshit thing I'm just thinking for fun. I don't think this is necessarily true. But the idea that, like, oh, after, like, World War I and II, a lot of guys came back really traumatized, and we didn't even really have a word for PTSD then, so they were really just expected to shut the fuck up and deal with it. So a lot of them probably became alcoholics and abusive because they didn't know how to deal with their own emotions, and I'm not excusing abuse from them, but I am saying it's possible that, like, the increase in undiagnosed and untreated PTSD might have increased a cycle of abuse that has been ongoing throughout the 20th century, and a lot of us are just now like, hey, let's maybe not do this.
The state, which...
Your dad was the only son, so he only wanted his kids to continue the family name? That's the one thing I actually find hilarious about the situation with my dad, is, I understand that shell shock was a thing. I was just talking about we don't understand it the way we understand PTSD today. The thing with my dad is, I know he's super egotistical. He's, like, so full of himself. And it's really funny to me that his genes are a dead end, because I'm not having children, certainly not biological children. And that kind of makes me happy. The one thing he doesn't get in life is for his genes to continue, and I get to decide that. I have decided that. And there's nothing he can do about it. He'll die sad and alone, with no progeny that love him, and a wife that barely puts up with him. A family that's indifferent at best. So that's fun. Logarth, thanks for 38 months, says 38 months of being one of the channel's regular furries, making snarky comments, bad puns, and the occasional banger. I've been blessed to know you this long, Hannah. Oh, thank you. Profane Priestess says, when he says foreign interests, I hear triple brackets foreign interests. Am I being uncharitable? No, it's understandable. The entire point of dog whistles is that some people use them intentionally and some people are ignorant, so they don't know. It's meant to make it confusing. So it's understandable that you're like, because it's hard to tell sometimes. I'm gonna guess the fact that he's being intentionally vague, or at least that's what it seems like, I'm gonna guess that he has some positions that are pretty obviously not cool. P.S. I also have a shit dad. He never hurt me, but he's a bitter drunk who was never really interested. He also told my brother he wouldn't be gay if he'd insert disrespectful way to talk about having sex with a woman. Oh, yikes. Sorry to hear that. Bumble Homestead says the Burger Queen ends the dynasty. True! Fennikagami says, I think it's more the dad is the king of the castle BS and other patriarchal nonsense that's the big factor. I think they're related.
Represents them. But right now, they're not. There's nowhere. Now, before we go any further, I'll mention that
Mr. Whisker says there's historical evidence that after large-scale battles throughout history, similar problems would arise. It's kind of reassuring that just killing people has always fucked up people mentally.
everything I just said, I went through it. I've lived it. Now, long story, made very short. Was a happy family. We were just in the process of moving between two houses. The RCMP, which is the police of a foreign state, police of Canada, thinking...
Not a foreign state. You live in Canada. Your fake government does not exist.
Working on wrong information, thinking they were going to do a big hit of something that didn't even exist. Came to our house and searched the entire house. Boom, their lives here.
You probably ruined your lives. I don't know that to be a fact, but opinion.
That is when they saw that there were children in the house, they called CPS, or Child Protection Services. Now these foreign agents came, kidnapped our children.
They legally took your children because they thought you were a threat. Or that it was an unsafe environment, something like that.
The horror that ensued is hard to explain. Now the thing is, the way it works is the state, once they take children like this, they don't care about justice or truth or anything. No. It's all about submission and servitude into their authority.
By that you mean that you have to prove that you're non-abusive and taking care of the child? Yes, that is how that works. And again, I understand that CPS has been weaponized against minority communities. I understand that it's not some fair-handed thing that's always right. I'm just saying in this case, I get the vibe that there's a reason the children were removed based on the way he's talking. Radiology says the only thing missing from your monologue about cutting off your dad's DNA legacy was something like this at the end. I'll never be able to top him, so why try? Oops, wrong video.
Now, what happened is I knew law, or I was learning law, so I had a bit of better understanding of law than the average people.
I'm gonna press X to doubt. Oh, I'm sorry, press Twitter to doubt.
So when I went to these courts, I went into these courts and I requested that my rights be respected, the human personal rights that should be offered.
So basically you went in there with pseudo-legal sovereign citizen bullshit and no one took it seriously, and you think that's tyranny instead of recognizing that you were brought in by grifters on the internet who taught you a bunch of nonsense that you want to believe because you don't want authority outside of yourself to have control over anything in your life or your children's life or the ability of your children to be indoctrinated by you. Okay. Hannah informing her dad the bloodline ends here.
Not again. The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther. I will make them pay for what they've done.
Well, knowing and asking for my rights made me enemy number one. CPS, corrupt completely. I can't see my children just because, really, I'm only asking for justice in courts.
I'm sure you're only asking for justice.
But worst is...
That's why you're being so vague.
Because I was right. If the courts were to really offer the rights, as they should, and review the facts and the law, the result would be that they would have to admit that they do not have jurisdiction on these matters and would have to abdicate.
Incorrect. The fact that you don't want the government to have power doesn't make it so, and reading a bunch of bullshit on the internet doesn't make you a lawyer, law scholar, whatever the fuck you think you are. I have dealt with so many sovereign citizens. I have dealt with Marcel fucking Beset. I am so tired of you nonsense narcissists believing that the world revolves around you. You live in a society, for the love of God. The meme has been around for years and it hasn't sunk in. Please learn that you are not the center of the universe, and we do not construct society around your individual intent or wants or morals, or mine for that matter. It's sort of a net of all of the people within that society, and it's going to be weighted differently depending on their political power, but it's not one direction that things are pointed in. It's tons of individual actors and entities within a society that pull it and push it in all sorts of different directions, socially, economically, politically, whatever. And then the net of that becomes society. The net outcome of all these interactions. There isn't some conspiracy to make it so you can't teach your kids whatever dumb bullshit you want to teach. It's just that as a net outcome of our understanding in society of the rights of individuals, the rights of children to have an education that prepares them for the future, if you are neglecting that, then guess what? Your kid has the right to be taken away from you because you were abusing them even if they don't understand it at the time. Like, you don't own your children!
But the thing is,
You're fine, Sume. Just, you're at an 11. Let's take it down to like an 8. Go from an 11 to an 8.
the state, although it should abdicate, does not want to. And in order to maintain these cases, maintain its artificial power, which it doesn't have authority.
Really? Because they took your kids, so it kind of seems like they have authority. What do you think authority is, if not the power to do something? Some esoteric bullshit? No, they have the power because they did it. They did it, they have the power.
The state and the courts have resulted to corruption, to fraud.
Everything I don't like is fraud and corruption. I'm so narcissistic, I can't imagine a world where my beliefs aren't objectively true. MH Darkbeast says, oh wait, no, I already read that one, sorry. Fenekagami says, I've been emotionally stunted myself. I don't know if it was bad medication, poor parenting, or poor social development. Thankfully, therapy and working service jobs that force me to socialize have improved this problem for me. There's hope, chat. Very much so. I've improved a ton with my own ability to understand myself, my emotions, and communicating them to the people around me that I care about. Therapy's helped a lot. The hormones helped a ton. Holy shit. Like, I have nothing against, like, anyone who wants testosterone, has testosterone, whatever. I hate testosterone in my body. It makes my brain bad. For whatever reason, it just felt like testosterone made me a lot less connected to what's going on emotionally with myself.
Now, I went
It's just not for me.
to multiple courts, superior courts of Quebec, the Federal Court of Canada, multiple times, requested writ of certiorari, which is also known as judicial review, should have been given, was never offered.
Man, maybe you were wrong. At any point in this, have you considered that you're wrong about your beliefs about how the court system works?
Courts use
Because it seems like it just kept not working. Weird.
summary rejection, corruption of law, fraud, always
Glad I'm not the only one.
rejected because they know that if they were just to review
Also, holy shit, testosterone makes you stink. Like, I'm not even saying it's always like a bad stink. I'm just saying, like, I don't want to smell like that.
the law, they would have to abdicate. Now that's corruption to enforce servitude. Now there's threats of violence, kidnapping our children, complete duress. The thing is, what they wanted me to do is to submit in servitude like a slave. That's what they want. But the thing is, I
They want you to not neglect your child's education.
will not agree to that.
Okay, and that's why they got taken from you. So, that didn't work out. Like, there's no version of this where you win here. You're one psycho against the government of Canada. I'm pretty sure Dudley Do-Right could stop you. Like, it's not like you're some genius.
Hear me out, I won't. I do not agree to live in a world or to help create a world where tyranny, persecution, injustice, unfairness, evil, darkness wins. But each time we agree to this and we submit, we make them win. So I said no, and this is why I've been fighting for more than a year now. I've suffered. The way I see it is I've been forged in the fires of hell. Here's the thing.
I have been forged in the fires of hell. Have you? Is that imagery necessary? Come on. You just don't know the law.
Because I do not agree to submit, but rather I fight through the ashes of the fires of hell, through the pain and the
He feels like this is his Jon Snow moment, or like his Braveheart moment.
blisters. Something was reborn.
Remember when William Wallace posted a poorly filmed YouTube video to hype up his army? Fennikagami says, I'll have you know, as a testosterone haver, you were correct about the stink. However, I have plenty of feelings and emotions. Pokemon made me cry plenty when Butterfree left and the Pikachu departure fact out of Gen 1. I am not saying my experience is universal. I'm just telling you what I felt. Of course people with testosterone are capable of feeling emotions. I'm not saying otherwise. For me personally, it felt like a block, though. It felt like a block.
Through this weird scenario of complexity of cases and extremely long interaction, I managed to separate myself from the states of Quebec and Canada, and every other
No, you weren't.
state for that matter. And I managed to solidify my sovereignty. Complicated,
Card Shark, thanks for 23 months. Almost 2 years.
but I managed
I
to
know,
get it
Crazy.
with the Accord of the King, Crown and Right of Canada, and they unwittingly or did not allow that to happen and acknowledged it. And by getting the sovereignty,
Hydrate.
I could reborn myself or rebirth myself as a king, which I now am King Regis Lucius the First. And now as a sovereign king, I now have the authority to create a sovereign state. And through that, now with the sovereign state, we benefit from the...
Practically speaking, sovereignty is basically your ability to protect your borders, to protect your so-called kingdom, your so-called country, and you're incapable of doing that against anyone. So your sovereignty might be something that makes you feel good on paper, but it doesn't exist in practical reality. Terradona, thanks for gifting a sub.
power of international law. So now that changes everything.
Did I hear of Colleen Ballinger's ukulele apology vid? Oh yeah, I parodied it. I parodied it in a video.
And that is the core and the heart of my battle. With the state, we are equal to every other state in international law. Well, that's essential. Because now we have the legal protection, the legal shield of the state, which allows us to live by our own rules and principles and laws.
What are those rules and principles and laws?
We can make a state that lives by the principal tenets of justice and freedom. The laws of God,
That's not good.
the essential tenets of common law. We can live, and that state is Taos. So as a phoenix reborn out of the fires of hell, we have Taos now, and now we're building it.
I feel like you're conflating mythologies here. The Phoenix and Hell? Hell's a Christian thing. Phoenix is, I think, Greek? Roman? Greek? The Romans stole from the Greeks. So probably Greek?
To ensure that our children will have a proper future. So, as we said, for citizens of current states, now the world over, now when your state becomes tyrannical, you don't have that many options. It used to be that when a state became, you could just immigrate, take refuge in another state. But what's happening nowadays is that every single state is turning tyrannical at the same rate. They're all coordinating, possibly with the same foreign agencies that are interfering with the governments. But there certainly are a coordination.
He's touching on the 14 words. Did you guys see Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did a 1488 dog whistle today on Twitter? It was like bad too. It was like it was the clumsiest attempt at a dog whistle.
Coordinated darkening in the world. So citizens of these states have no recourse. Even if they move to another state, that same state will be just as tyrannical within 2-3 years. It's all coordinated. So citizens are...
I did see that about Michigan banning conversion therapy. I'm telling you guys, I know not everyone can move, but if you are in a position where you're considering moving sometime soon, and you're looking for a place that's moving in a progressive direction, has a really, really motivated young voter base, lots of grassroots stuff going on, consider Michigan. I'm not kidding. Like the younger generation is pretty politically active in my experience, and are really looking to push things in a good direction here. Also, in the water wars, we have the Great Lakes. And I'm pretty sure we can beat Wisconsin, so I think we'll be fine. Probably. Overthought says, a major thing these Sovsit types miss is that even if we grant that they are right, how are you backing up your ideas? The state still has the ability to enforce their will. You don't. Yeah. It's really where the rubber hits the road, you know? It's really what it is. Can you protect what you have from others? If not, you're not really sovereign in the practical sense, right? Steve with the Q says, it's all the states becoming tyrannical. It can't be me. Reminds me of a post I read the other day of someone who went to see Newsies, which, if you don't know, is a musical about a real event where newspaper sellers, street corner newsies, unionized against, Pulitzer and Hearst. So it's about unionization. It's a very pro-union, anti-big business, anti-monopolistic movie. It is a movie, but I meant show. And apparently someone heard a conservative being like, I'm telling you, they changed it. I don't remember it being this woke. And it's like, the world didn't get more woke necessarily. You've been brainwashed to think that everything that could benefit you is bad by billionaires and other right-wing ghouls. God damn. Too close to Ohio. Chromatic Cuttlefish says, conquer Wisconsin, and annex its cheese mines. That would be dangerous, but I do like cheese. Baby Christian Bale. Yeah.
Stuck, and they don't know what to do. So the only other
he just wants to go to Santa Fe, guys.
actions that they know that they can do is to engage in insurrection, to become seditious. And I'm sorry to say, but that's the actually worst solution ever. Now, you have to understand that governments of states, they love insurrection. That's the
I don't think they do.
solution they want you to think that you have, because insurrection automatically allows them, because it's basically a revolt against your very own authority, so it gives them the right and justification to squash it, to crush it to the ground. An example is in Canada, they had last year the Freedom Convoy. Well, that was insurrection, and what happened? They got crushed from A to Z. The state had barely lifted a finger, and it all just got brought to them. There's no...
Man, it's almost like they were whining about nothing, and they were just making everyone's life worse because they're a bunch of misanthropic assholes. Rageology with a link.
We suggest that you see your travel agent or contact the United States Travel Service in London. Have you been to Michigan?
Look at that. See? The ad says it and everything.
winning within their own state through insurrection. Now, the Holy Scriptures, the New Testament,
the Holy Scriptures, oh boy, theology.
This tells us that who will live by the sword will perish by the sword. And that's extremely important. Violence.
He who lives by the poorly made YouTube video is mocked by the poorly made YouTube video.
Has never been an option. And they love to promote violence, but it's not an option because violence begets violence. Now, if it's done by citizens, it's insurrection. If it's done by foreigners, it's a declaration of war. Now, if we think about it, the major countries of the world are extremely well armed. I mean, we have weapons. They have weapons nowadays that can blow up the earth many times over with nuclear weapons and whatever else that they have. Terrible weapons. Violence is not the answer. Never was, never will be. Taos does not engage in that. Taos is neutral and peaceful. So Taos engages the world in international law. So it respects the foreign states, every single one of them. Taos is neutral.
You don't even have a way to not respect them. You would have to have power for your respect to mean anything, and you have no power, so why would anyone care what you think? Fenekagami says, wait, you mean that the, wait. You mean the the demagogues lied about staying the same, but everything went more left? Are you trying to say that if all the favorite media was released today, conservatives would hate them because they're brain poisoned? Are you sure about that, Hannah? Pretty sure.
Consider them as allies and friends, and will work with them through diplomacy and, of course, through international law. But the fact remains that in international law, every sovereign state is sovereign within its own territory, which means that the
And that's why no countries are ever invaded.
Taos has the right to exist and to grow and to be prospered within its own territory. Now, that's important.
It's not your territory, though. It's Canada's. You just tried to steal it. Discordant Vol says, incorrect, we could make the surface of Earth extremely inhospitable to life, but a full-on planet crack, we can't. Planet's too big.
So, the people that feel that they have no other options, in many ways, in our days, it's true. They are stuck until Taos. Now they have an option. The right answer?
I feel like this guy telling people to come to his micronation that doesn't really exist, that he's the king of. I'm not making any legal claims, but just like, it feels a little, in my opinion, culty. It feels a little culty to try and secede from the country you're in and have a little tiny country in it, and then be like, come to my country and I'm the king. Feels culty. Kind of what Jonestown did.
Is to immigrate to a proper state, considering that there's so few nowadays, immigrate to Taos. That's the solution. Gain citizenship of Taos, you gain the protection of the state. And that's what it means. An example. And let's give a hypothetical example. It works for every country on Earth, every state on Earth, but I'll just use an example here. We'll take Canada as an example. So, if you have a citizen of Canada, is only a citizen of that state. Well, if that citizen is taken to a legal court of Canada, and the courts become corrupt, as I've seen it happen, that person has no recourse. Oh, sure, it might try an appeal, within Canada, these various other options, but if the corruption is ultimate within the state, there's no way out.
Maybe you're just wrong. Overthought says, cool, got a few thousand folk together, see how the state's like losing that tax revenue. Oh, they wouldn't be losing it, I assure you.
But it happens because I've witnessed it.
Not for very long, at least.
Then that person has nearly no other recourse. Well, sure, there may be some international recourses with national...
When he goes to the store, do you think he tries to tell, like, the cashier, like, I shouldn't be paying sales tax on any of this? I am not part of Canada's government. Even though it doesn't matter, because everyone in Canada has to pay sales tax, regardless of citizenship status, because that's just how sales tax works.
United Nations, but that is extremely complicated, it's hard to do, and what if the United Nations was to also be corrupt? I mean, then there's no way out. So, they're stuck. But, there is a solution. If that person is either only a citizen of Taos or also a citizen of Taos, well, it creates jurisdiction. Both courts of Taos and of Canada have joint jurisdictions on the matter. So now that citizen, that person, now has protection of the courts of Taos.
They don't, because your courts aren't real. Like, courts are a social construct, right? We all take courts seriously in our particular countries because they have authority, because we give them authority collectively. We all agree. This is a court, or at least most of us agree, that's the court, it has judicial power, and it has very explicit roles and powers in your various countries in the United States or Canada. Or Taos, whatever. In Taos, you might believe that the court's real, but outside of it, Canada doesn't, so they're not going to take it seriously. It's like Marcel thinking he's a judge, and everyone's fucked. Like, no, Marcel still went to jail, because that's how authority works. It doesn't work by saying magic words.
Except the courts of Taos will be fair, just, implements rights, justice, all the best tenets of justice apply, and the courts of Taos can adjudicate the case, and if Canada is corrupt, the courts of Taos can revert that corruption. And
Wait, I thought states were sovereign. You're saying that you think your independent sovereign state can overrule courts of Canada? But you said that sovereign states are sovereign, so shouldn't Canada stuff be Canada stuff and Taos stuff be Taos stuff? That doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? You contradicted yourself.
in law, the most just judgments wins. So
in law, the most just judgment wins. And it's a good thing that there's an objective meaning for most just, which is why in courts we don't need people to make that judgment. Maybe we should. Maybe we should have people in courts whose job it is to make judgments about what is most lawful in the courts, because that's actually the standard, not justice. They follow the law, which is a problem. I agree. There can be laws that don't provide justice. But, like, what are you talking about practically? You think you're going to say to the court, no, that's not just, and I have my own country, so I say no. That's not how that works. You said you're remaining neutral. That's the opposite of neutral. You're actively saying that another country, in this example, I'm pretending his country's real even though it's not. You're telling another country, we don't respect the ruling that you made in your country about your laws. So you aren't neutral. You're actively involving yourself in what you consider to be a foreign sovereign nation's politics and law.
by international law, the courts of the foreign state must recognize the judgment, and then that person is, depending on the results, possibly freed where it may not have been otherwise. So that's important aspect of Taos. Now, the dream of Taos is this, as I've mentioned, is
Cryptoland is more real than Taos. I'm gonna put it out there. Cryptoland is more real than Taos.
free to allow evil to win. Not in my life. Not me. Others do, obviously. All these corrupt agents from CPS, governments, courts, they're okay with engaging in corruption to justify evil and pain and torture. I do not understand this. I do not agree with this. Not on my watch. So,
You
no.
fucking Batman?
No.
Like, why you think you're the goddamn arbiter of justice? Unknown Outcast, thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Thank you. Getting closer to this month's sub goal. Only, let's see, how many days left? 1, 2, 3 more days. We need, oh god, like 160 more subs. I don't know if we're gonna make it.
It won't happen. Not on my watch. So I've
Still, we got pretty close. Oh, he's gonna yell. Beautiful.
acted. I've lifted my fist and I'm gonna fight for it. Are you
Okay.
hearing me?
I hear you. I don't agree with what you're saying, but I do hear you.
I'm fighting. No, I'm not
Unless Fast Lunacy shows up. True.
talking about physical or martial arts fighting. No.
Discordant Volt, thanks for gifting 5 tier 1 subs and getting us closer to the goal.
We're talking battle, which means to act and create a solution that will work to bring back the light, the good in this world, to be the counter or the what's the word here is to be the antithesis of evil. As evil grows, also must the antithesis.
Like the
That's
morphing
what-
grid. That's how the morphing grid works. Is he also a student of Zordon? Hydrate. They know to only use their weapons for defense. Rageology says, Cryptoland, hell, Bottomland is more real than whatever this is. That's true. Bottomland is very real. It's where I go in my dreams.
We're doing, because I will not have my life have participated to increase hell in this world.
Bottomland is a lot of stuffed animals and cute stuff, just for the record.
No, it won't. So there we go.
Mr. Whiskers, thanks for gifting a sub.
I've made
That's the aesthetic, okay?
my move. I'm now a king and I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna lead the good people.
Is there a femboy Hooters in Bottomland? There is now. That's canon.
And we're gonna create a solution for the good people where they will be free, where they will be respected, families will be allowed to grow and within their own beliefs, as long as they don't bother anybody within their own beliefs.
This guy, I'm not making any legal accusations. I have no evidence that he has actively abused his children. I have no evidence of that. I am not making any legal claims about this man. Just I'm not, okay? Let's say hypothetically, though, someone who wants this much control over their family is scary. Just for the record. I've witnessed this kind of abuse before. My dad is like this, wants control over the people in his household, and he gets a say on where they go, and no one can come over the house unless he says so, and he can blast loud music in the basement that everyone can hear and it literally shakes the house, but no one can complain about it. That got a little too specific. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is wanting this level of control and taking away autonomy both from your spouse and your children, because I understand when kids are young, you know, their autonomy is pretty limited because you need to guide them and teach them. But as they get older, even if they're not adults yet, as they get into their, you know, teens, tweens, older teens, they're going to get more and more responsibility and ideally more autonomy so that they can develop their own personality, develop as a human being, you know what I mean? Oh, fuckballs. Unknown Outcast tips $100 and says, what's your favorite Star Trek ship? Vessel, not Kirk. Kirk/Spock. Ooh, that's a good question. Classic Enterprise D is really good. Also, that is a maid outfit day, so tomorrow will be a maid outfit day. Thank you so much, Unknown Outcast, for the huge-ass tip. Thank you so much. Just the tip. DM Trey with 39 months says, yo, 39 months. This is actually cool. Let me show you something. What is it called? Playmobil. So, some years ago, Playmobil came out with a wonderful model of the Starship Enterprise, the NCC-1701. No bloody AC, A, B, C, or D, as Scotty would say. And it's gorgeous. It's huge. I have it. I think I've shown it on stream once when I got it. I got this as a birthday gift for myself a year or two ago. This is the size, if you can't tell. It lights up, it makes noises, the nacelles like light up and do the spinny thing. It actually has an inside where you can see like the crew, the bridge, there's a little engineering section. It's wonderful. It's hung up downstairs on the ceiling because it has like a hanging thing. So that's really great, and I love it. I want them so badly to make an Enterprise D, because I love the original Enterprise. It's classic. How could you not if you're a Star Trek fan, you know? Doesn't have to be your favorite, it's not mine, but it is pretty classic, and it's, you know, the basis through which all future Federation ships would be designed from. This was the design ethos that started the concept of Federation ships in Star Trek. But goddamn, I love the Enterprise D. To me, that's like the perfect Starfleet ship. Homey, there's families on board, even if that doesn't really make logistical sense. It's just very, very cool. And I hope one day they do an Enterprise D similar to this. The scale makes it feel claustrophobic, specifically the relative size of the little figures to the ship. Oh, of course. Because, you know, if they made it in scale, the figures would be, you know, this big. But it's cute for what it is, you know? I consider the inside and the outside to basically be different things. It's not literal. It's just, you know, It's toyetic. If you were a kid, you could play with it and have a little play set, you know? Doesn't have to be exact. They also actually did another one that's a Romulan, or rather, sorry, Klingon bird of prey, which I'd like to get someday. Hopefully it'll be on sale eventually. But anyway, I hope they do an Enterprise D. Dr. Gamble says Enterprise E is more for me. Really, I didn't... Hold on. Let me pull this up real quick. Enterprise E, to make sure I'm not forgetting. Yeah, I didn't like the E. I like when the saucer is saucer-shaped. I don't like the elongated Voyager-style saucer. It just doesn't look right to me. I really think that... I don't know. I really like when the ships from the Federation have more circular disc things. Logarth says, okay, but then Connects comes out with a bird of prey with the original Klingons and the gold Kleenex guns. Mr. Whiskers says Enterprise D's nuts. And MH Dark Beast says, did you watch the Strange New Worlds Lower Decks crossover yet? I want the Lower Decks ship. It's so great, especially the opening for Star Trek New Worlds animation. We haven't. We have not watched, we only watched the first episode of the second season of Strange New Worlds so far. I don't know if the season's done yet, but we are going to watch it. I'm sure we'll sit and, you know, binge it whenever.
Hi, I'm Captain
Christopher Pike.
How is the tone balanced in this episode? Because Boimler's literally from, like, a parody borderline show, and I know it's supposed to be canon, but, you know. It's a wacky show, and Strange New Worlds is fun and light compared to a lot of other new Trek, but, like, still, it's more grounded. Rageology says, rare Star Trek hill I'll die on, Enterprise C is the best. Okay, I can see that position. It'd be interesting to see a show. Let me just say this. If you're a fan of TNG or TOS and you haven't seen Strange New Worlds, do yourself a favor and watch it. I understand if you didn't like Discovery. I'm not really a huge fan of Discovery, but it's okay. You know, I just take it as it's a very separate thing with a different tone than other Star Trek. Strange New Worlds is great. Star Trek. Please check it out. Anyway, I'll consider that a cleanse.
They will have a place, a safe place to...
Boimler's freak out is still one of my favorite freak outs. Okay, one more. Wait, is this the whole animated thing? I'm already gonna have to cut off the other section, so I'm not gonna play it. Gotta get off the tangent.
Call home. Now, Tayos cannot interfere with other states, and it won't, it can't. But if I...
The whole Klingon controversy, first of all, Discovery Season 2 retcons the change they made to the Klingons. The Klingons as they exist now are more of a balance between kind of all of the versions that have existed in TOS, TNG, the movies, and Discovery. They found a place where it feels like these are all different kinds of Klingons that are all Klingons, but maybe a little different. You know what I mean? And I'm okay with that as the explanation. Like, not all humans look exactly the same, you know? Discordant Vol says, is the TPD hit the time traveler with a phaser set to max stun and possible return of them in their time as soon as possible? I love time travel Star Trek episodes, really. City on the Edge of Forever. Oh, shitballs. Purple Pondini, thank you so much for the 10,000 fucking bits. Oh my god. I appreciate it more than you will ever know. Thank you. Really. That is so generous. I feel like sometimes, because of the fact that this is a job where people are donating things a lot, I don't want anyone to feel like... I take for granted the fact that I am able to do this job and hang out with you guys because of your donations. Sometimes I'm going through them very fast, and I'm like, oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you, I appreciate it. And I understand that that can probably come off as, like, I don't know, canned, and, like, I'm not really appreciative. I want you all to know that that's not the case. It's just what you have to do to keep the show going, but I want you to know that regardless of if it's like 50 bits or 10,000, all of you help make the show work. So thank you. Thank you so much. Genuinely. And thank you, Purple Pondini, for being so generous with your hard-earned money. I appreciate it. And anyone who doesn't or can't, you're awesome just for being here. And I appreciate it so much. I couldn't do this without an audience, you know? It's like PBS. This show is brought to you by viewers like you, though. And I want you to know and take a minute out to just say, it means the world to me. And if it ever feels dismissive, the way that I'm going through them very quick, I want you to know that that's just for the expediency of the stream. All of the things that you guys do and donate and add to the stream in terms of content and commentary, links and jokes, it means a lot to me, and I don't take that for granted. So thank you. Chromatic Cuttlefish says, even the animated original series Star Trek time travel story is pretty good. Yeah, when Spock meets his younger self. That's one of the best episodes of the animated series, in fact. Like that, I consider that canon. Honestly, I think that episode's great.
Other states interfere with Taos and or its citizens, well then Taos will restore justice at least for the citizens of Taos. For the good.
You're not restoring anything. You're gonna go live out in the woods and avoid taxes, and you're gonna get caught eventually.
People out there.
Marcel got caught. And I'm just gonna be honest. Like, Marcel is obviously pretty disorganized, but I will give Marcel this. He's wily. He's wily, you know? He's the kind of guy, and we've made jokes about the fact that he's been like, I've been like 500 street fights. You know, we've made jokes about that. But I wouldn't want to get in a fight, first of all, with anyone. I tend to be pretty pacifistic. I don't intend to solve things with violence. It's not my strong suit. And also, just not something I want to involve myself in. But if I was someone who got into fights, which I wouldn't be, Marcel specifically is someone I wouldn't want to get in a fight in. Don't get in a fight with crazy people. Because crazy people are crazy. Crazy people will do shit you don't even think of, okay? They're not going to be as concerned for their well-being as maybe you are. Someone tries to start a fight, I suggest you run away. Just saying.
The word will get out.
The point was, if Marcel got caught, this guy's definitely getting caught, because I don't mean to make a judgment here, but Marcel is better at this than this guy. Like, Marcel at least doesn't come off like a theocratic, abusive father. Opinion. Marcel just comes off with someone with, like, bipolar that probably needs to be medicated better.
Those who want better, well, move to Taos. Immigrate. Become citizens. You have a website.
Are you going to be taking taxes from the people of Taos? Just a question. How are you going to run the government of Taos if there are no taxes? Are you going to build roads, infrastructure? Is there going to be water and power? Is that going to be handled by the government? Or is this going to be no real government and private entities are going to, you know, do their thing? You just want it to be private interest? Like, what's your thought process here? Marcel's never been allowed to meet his son. That's true. Which is good for the son, I would guess. I feel bad for Marcel's son. I wonder if he's ever caught any of my videos about Marcel. If so, I hope Marcel's kid's doing alright. He does not deserve this. Baha, what do you want me to wear? Something cute, I bet. Miss Coordinate Vol says he's got a lot of extension cords. Flower crown, okay.
Go on the website, read about it. We'll improve over time. Everything will be there. Make a choice. Now, citizenship, again, to clarify, you do not have to physically move to the lands of Taos.
This seems like you're trying to create something on paper so that people can claim that they don't have to pay taxes, and that's illegal.
Become a citizen of Taos. You can remain, you can be on another continent and become a citizen of Taos. What happens is you become part of the legal territory of the state.
So, again, it feels like you're trying to, and I'm not saying this is his intent. I don't even necessarily think this is his intent. I don't think he's thought this far. He basically wants to create an artificial country on paper that people can claim as their country of origin so they don't have to follow the laws of the country they live in. That's not how anything works. It doesn't matter. Even if you're a citizen of a different country, if you're in... The example I've used is twofold. If you're in France, if I go to France, which, you know, Baja knows people in France, so someday we very well might go to France. They live in Paris, actually. Like, close to the Eiffel Tower. They must deal with tourists a lot. Anyway, if I go to France and I break a French law, I don't get to say, well, I'm American, I'm not from France, so your laws don't apply to me. That's not how it works. If you want a more specific example of, like, a totalitarian government, if I go to North Korea and I break one of their weird laws, like, let's say I go up to a statue of Kim Jong-un and I spit on it. I wouldn't do this because I wouldn't ever be in North Korea. Let's imagine for a second I do, and I spit on it. I don't get to say, you don't get to arrest me, I'm not from your country, because North Korea has sovereignty, even if they're shitty. They have it because they can protect their land with nuclear weapons they developed. Like, I don't like North Korea, but I also don't expect people to be able to come and save me necessarily if I do something stupid there. And North Korea actually has some form of political power because it has nukes, and arguably citizens that it sometimes uses as almost hostages. You have nothing. You have no power, soft or hard. So what do you think you're doing? You're speaking loudly and carrying no stick. It's so stupid. Rageology says, let's all become citizens and then vote to ostracize this guy out of his own state for lols, you understand? Who's Your Friend says, Wesley was allowed to ruin flowers and he never did, never diced justice, so you just need a starship. Faced justice, maybe? I remember that episode. Is that a bad season 1 episode or a bad season 2 episode?
Even if you were to be, I don't know, in the lands generally referred to as France, for example. Well, you could be
I know her too, but you know, I met her because of you, so, you know.
Citizen of Taos, and you have the courts of Taos protecting you. And if
How are your courts going to protect them?
a foreign court...
Does Bottomland have both soft and hard power? It has a lot of soft power. You're going to have to go to Topland for hard power. Though there is an exchange program.
Say France, in this case, takes you in. Well, you can...
Video's quiet. Sorry, whenever he yells, I turn it down and then I forget to turn it back up. MH Darkbeast says, have you watched Phaelus' stuff, especially the Dingo Pictures Disney ripoffs? Because you totally need this shirt. I have. I've been watching Phaelus. I haven't watched him lately, it's been a while, but, like, I used to watch him a ton. Him and Allison and Todd and the Shadows. A lot of people from, who used to, started on Channel Awesome, but of course now do their own thing, and they're very good.
Call your state, call the embassy, and get protection from the courts, and the courts will assist you and get you out of there.
How so? What?
Okay. You could also immigrate to Taos, and I'll get back to that topic because we have lands to build, we have institutions to man, we need officers, we need police officers, we need...
Oh good, you're gonna have police that I assume are going to be subject to your whims since you're the king.
Man the government.
I don't think anyone who doesn't want to wield power calls themselves king. Just a thought.
We'll get back to that. So that's the dream.
What happens if people come to his state and then within it go, we're taking this state, it's ours now, or even within the state of Taos, which again isn't real, but in this hypothetical, let's say his state was a real state. What's to stop people within that state from seceding further? Everything but this guy's house is now a different country. Taos is now just this guy's specific house. Everything else is now Globus. I'd be bad at naming cities.
Of Taos is to build a proper state that will be a home for the righteous people.
Righteous being defined by specifically this guy and his interpretations of the Christian Bible.
The unrighteous people will not be welcome, but they will never be thrown out
Geez, I wonder what he considers to be unrighteous.
by unfair justice. Never. Now, the
I should show up to Tyos dressed as M. Bison and rename it Reloadia. Piper Draws and stuff says, what about Switchland? Is that between Bottomland and Topland, or was it once part of the two lands and it eventually gained independence? It's a suburb of both. It's a suburb of both, and they're kind of twin cities, so...
righteous people will always be protected. If they're righteous and they live correctly according to the laws of God, the Ten Commandments, for example, which is essentially live and let live.
That is a very weird interpretation of the Ten Commandments. Oh boy.
As long as people do not hurt anybody and live within respect of others.
What do you consider the respect of others? Because I'm kind of assuming you're taking the part of the Bible where it says if children disobey their parents, you can beat the shit out of them or murder them. I'm afraid you're taking that literally, so.
They will be respected. They will be protected. Now,
Don't worry, Hannah, most of us aren't good at naming cities. Remember, New York is literally just named after another city. And before that, it was New Amsterdam. Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way.
criminals will not... Now, remember, we have to say that the freedom is never free. Freedom has never been free. Okay?
Freedom's never free. Beer and trucks and beating my wife.
So we have to understand that freedom comes with serious responsibilities. So the righteous...
Responsibilities like paying taxes and obeying the laws of the country you're in, like Canada.
To live righteously is the cost of freedom. And the unrighteous, the criminals, will not fare well in Tyros at all. Now, this being said...
Oh boy, that sounded punitive.
If a criminal is taken into a criminal court, he or she will benefit from a very, very fair, just court with all the human rights required.
Oh boy, the dictatorship that this man would invent would be horrifying if anyone took him seriously.
Respected to the T. So a righteous person that is taken to a criminal court by mistake will always be allowed out because a fair process will...
Of course, he gets to determine all of that, I would imagine, since he's the king.
Always allow the good people out. It'll never be like happened to me. Never be persecuted unfairly.
And he's not a bad person, so of course he would never be taken to court.
But if, despite the justice and fairness of the courts, there is a judgment for a crime, a conviction, well then they'll be very severe, because we cannot allow the unrighteous to take advantage of the freedom of Tyros. That's good.
Why am I feeling like his version of freedom doesn't include being LGBTQ? Just kind of a guess.
One thing. So it really is a
Not being progressive. I'm gonna assume he's not a big fan of labor unions.
state for the righteous, for the good and the just.
Discordant Vol says he's Quebecois. He'd be another rock, oh god. Rock Throat? Therialt? Anthill Kid cult? I'm not familiar.
We'll protect them in that justice and that righteousness. Respect their beliefs and their freedom. Okay, so the name of Tyros comes from a cave in Ecuador, the country of Ecuador.
I wondered about that because I googled Teos and that's what came up, and I was like, is this just like completely random that he came up with his name?
And it's a very special cave, and it's called La Cueva de los Tayos in Spanish, and so here comes the name Tyos. And in Japanese, Tayo also means sun, the sun. So I always thought it's perfectly named because, again, as you have a day that corrupts into darkness, the end of the day, or you have a rebirth the next morning when the sun rises again and shines with the promise of a new day and the heat and the light that it brings. So I think it's perfect for what we're trying to achieve, as Tyos is the antithesis of evil.
Terrio? Thank you.
There is a saying that says that the only thing required for evil to succeed is
It's for good people to do nothing.
men to do nothing.
The worst people on Earth have appropriated that fucking sentence, people, let me tell ya.
Well, there you go. We have to do something. We have to take back our fate in our own hands. Okay, do you hear me? Listen to me. Good cannot win if we do nothing. Is that clear? So we have to do something, and there will be sacrifices. We may have to sacrifice our sofa, our all comfortable sofa. We may have to let that one go, because if we do not do anything, yes, evil will win. And it's already near midnight, I can tell you, because although a lot of states are already very corrupt, most people don't see it as long as you obey their edicts and their rules. But as soon as you challenge a little bit, you'll see the monster. You will see Godzilla's foot.
Just like Bambi. Again, you're being quite vague. It's almost like you don't want to specifically state the things that you feel you're being persecuted for, because if you did, people would recognize that you're a psycho. Would you care to elaborate on these things?
We're already there. So we need to act. Talos is at least my take on that, on the acts. I will lead to make sure that...
Remember when people in Tokyo in that one Godzilla movie were like, oh my god, it's Godzilla. To stop him from stomping on us, let's take this city block and secede and say that we're a different country. That'll stop Godzilla, right? Remember that movie? Minty Treasure says, I'll give you my sofa when you take it from my cold, dead ass.
the good people have to. Maybe somebody else will, but I'm not going to wait for anybody else to do it. And from what I see, nobody else is doing it. I'm tired. I'm not going to wait for somebody to possibly do it. Most probably won't. Take our fate in our own hands. My family is suffering still, so I'm taking leadership. We're going to manage that ship, and we're going to make something that brings back fairness. Are you hearing me? That's important. But we need you. We need you. I need you. Can't do this alone. The good people have to act. And now Talos gives us the right and the justification in international law. We have a legal state protecting us. Oh.
No, you don't. Canada does not recognize you. And I know that we're going to look at his legal documents later that he thinks means that he's sovereign. He's not. He's not that. Rageology says Dalek also means a far and distant thing in Serbo-Croat. Croat, rather. Is it Croat or Croat? I assume it's related to Croatia. Croat? 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 Relevant? No. Interesting? Probably not. Just felt like joining in.
Mind you,
Croat?
no violence ever. It's not needed anyways. We're way more powerful by simply doing good, ensuring justice, and acting by international law. Always good. We cannot interfere with other states. So citizens of Talos never interfere with other states, even if they do things that are questionable, because they have the right to their own choices, just like we have the right to our own choices. It cuts both ways.
So do we all just want to go on this land and be as gay as possible? Because he just said, like, even if we don't agree, we'll let people do stuff. I find that hard to believe. I find that a little hard to believe.
So, I've mentioned the... about immigration to Talos, by the way, is extremely easy. We have a website. You can go on the website, Talos. You also have Telegram channels. We have a Discord channel. There's also a Twitter, and probably more will come in there. You can come and chat with us. The people of Talos, the citizens of Talos, myself, King Regis. You can talk with me and ask questions, or you can send an email. Everything's on the website. You can see that there. And immigration is really an act of self-determination. So when you decide to become a citizen of Talos, you decide that you do. Hence, on the website, there's an affidavit, and you fill that affidavit, get it notarized, and you send it to the state of Talos. And if the state agrees, then you become a citizen of Talos.
So then it's not their decision then, right? That's your decision. You said the state of Talos as if you aren't the king of Talos. You mean you get to decide if someone can come live there or not. Which is funny because it's not even your call, it's federal Canadian land.
That's it, by your own will and intent. Then there's also a second optional step, which is if you decide, it's optional, but if you decide to revoke citizenship of your previous state or states, you can do that too. So it's all going to be on the website, but it's actually extremely easy. And from then, well, in the future, Taos will has driver's license, vehicle registration, passports.
Not legal ones.
And everything else. Birth certificates, everything will be given.
Again, none of those are recognized by anyone else, so they mean nothing.
And then the citizens, they can come home if they want to. They can immigrate back to Taos. Or
Whilst we're taking over a state, can we rename it Mitch the Gays in honor of Michigan? It's a bit of a stretch, but why not?
they can stay abroad as
Wouldn't Michigay be closer as a pun?
citizens of Taos. And
Michigan?
over time, the state will expand. So that's extremely important. Now, in terms of structure of Taos, it goes like this, and it's structured in what I believe, and I strongly believe, and I have the ability to defend this belief, that is the best structure for a state: the governments and the courts. Now, there's various government structures that have been tried over history, some more successful than others, and the one that I chose is the one that I believe is the best that I know of. So Taos is essentially, well, first of all, there's of course the head of state, king himself.
The king, so humble. Sume says, I just found a guy who makes me want to vomit. Interesting.
Here's the number one thing that you have to remember as a high value man
Oh,
is they
God.
start off being fully compliant and submissive in the beginning of the interactions or the beginning of the relationships. This is a major red flag. If you have not done a whole lot of anything yet with the girl or seen her on a consistent basis and she is fully submissive, okay, she is very bubbly, she's very flirty, she follows your lead, she's very quiet, she's very polite, she just does everything and is a go with the flow type of girl, oh yeah, you can 100% expect that what will happen is there will be a severe pullback at some point. Now, what you have to understand is this, okay? The reason why women do this is because they 100% are trying to get you to second guess your own masculinity.
This guy needs to watch the Barbie movie. I have to use the bathroom, so let's put on a sausage guy video real quick while I use the bathroom. Ew. Ew. These all look pretty gross. Okay. I'll be back in just a second. Behave.
Really, pancake? And then we form the base layer here. Ooh, that's chunky. Well, that's a disappointing pizza. I think we just kind of do that. A part of me wonders if we probably should have, heated this pizza up before throwing it in on top of the pancakes. This is gonna suck to flip. Joe, I spilled it all on the flame. It's okay. It's okay. Get off of me. It smells like on fire pancake batter now. We're just gonna... There it is. Then you do that to it. Oh, it looks good. It looks real good. Here we go! It's very confusing. It tastes like the doughiest pizza you've ever had with sweet syrup on it and spicy tomato sauce. It doesn't work well together at all. So, top marks for execution and low marks for actual utility. I'll give the pizza pancake like a 2 out of 5.
Bop, 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 bop.
Good timing on my part. Hydrate. I can do that.
It's required because it is head of state that grants the sovereignty of the state.
It's more so the state's ability to protect its sovereignty that gives it sovereignty, you know? Like, you're kind of going based on a really old, like, almost, like, divine right of kings definition of sovereignty, which is weird.
in international law. So there is a sovereign state, there's a sovereign, and the point of the king is to ensure, of course, leadership, but also to ensure that the state will remain to supervise or oversee, that the state will remain within the edicts and the vision and the principles that
You
prompted
did just miss the chair,
its creation.
unfortunately.
It remains
That's weird. That's not your first time chat, is it? I guess maybe it is. Maybe you've only gifted subs before.
loyal to these principles.
Wait, hold on. There was the chair. Alright. Dumb bit.
Principle, justice, fairness, freedom, etc. But other than that, the king will not intervene in the management of the state. The
Then what's your power?
government will be managed by the people, so the government will be a representative republic. It's very important, so it is the citizens who will
So you're not a king then. In what way are you a king?
elect their government. Now, you have two great models related to that. Of course, you have ancient Rome in some of its most glorious days that have a similar
Oh god.
model. But you also have, in our days, the United States of America.
I subbed to empty chairs. Thank you for gifting a sub. I appreciate you going along with my stupid joke.
They have a model that I think is very clever, and for that reason, Taos is pretty much modeling itself on that structure. So the representative republic will
So are you going to have an electoral college?
be built of three branches of government. So you have the legislative, the executive, and of course the judiciary. So the legislative will obviously be the Congress, composed of the Senate and the House of Representatives, all elected by the people. And of course you have the executive, which will be the government, the government itself. The president will be a president, vice president, and everybody else, all the other officers. And the judiciary, and judiciary will be functioning on the following. So the courts of Taos, for the same reasons, is in my opinion established on what is, I think, the best system of law that exists in our times, and it is the English common law.
Terradona says, so a shitty excuse for a constitutional monarchy. I don't know why you would start with a constitutional monarchy. Like, why would you even have a king then? Just have, like, a head of state. Like, just either have a president or a prime minister or something like that. Why are you starting with a king? Like, the reason the UK has a king, and sometimes a queen, is because, you know, it comes from a time when that was the primary form of government. It just stuck around. Like, why would you start with that? Sume says, Calvin, King, and Tyrant, Top Scout, Head Scout, Field Scout, Chief Strategist, Strike Force Commander, Code Expert, Most Highest, Grandest, Exalted, Supreme Dictator for Life, Hobbs Club, Secretary General, Agent in Charge of Munitions, GROSS, Cartographer Club, Mascot, Court Stenographer, Tiger Bulk Rate, El Tigre, Numero Uno, First Tiger President, Calvin and Hobbes did it better.
Is the best. Now, first of all, the English common law has everything that is good from the civil systems. So it has nothing to envy to the civil systems. But it is superior.
It's a Calvin and Hobbes thing. Calvin and Hobbes is a... Go read Calvin and Hobbes. Discordant Vol says, I'm sure he has the power to execute the representatives on a whim built in there somewhere.
Superior in everything that it has that the others do not. Now, you have, of course, case law, the unwritten law. That's extremely important. But also that it is more flexible in that it also...
I wouldn't say unwritten. I would say unlegislated. Court opinions are definitely written.
Operates to maxims of law and of equity. And that's essential, that's very important, because maxims of law and equity are inherited from the natural law. Also, we could call it the laws of God.
No!
And the maxims, operating by the maxims in common law, is very powerful in ensuring that justice and it operates within the bounds of justice. And it's much harder in common law to corrupt the law than it is in a civil system. Now, in a civil system, they have these codes, these statutes, and if everything is not codified perfectly, if there's little holes in there, and obviously they voluntarily leave holes or imprecisions, well, then after that, you can pretty much do what they want. But in the common law, it's incredibly harder because, again, it applies if the statutes do not have holes. Well, the maxims of law and of equity still apply, the case law still applies. It's near impossible. There's very little wiggle room for the judges to become unfair. And on top of that, Taios will explicitly enforce justice, human rights in its courts. Judges that do not respect it will be severely punished.
Again, at an 11, turn it down, Sume. No soliciting in chat.
Because it will be
especially if people in their early 20s.
An essential edict principle of our state. So the courts of equity, criminal courts are also common law. The structure of the courts is on the website, but essentially lower level courts, superior courts of chancery, of course, Supreme Court, courts of appeal of chancery, everything will be there. The state will also have a constitution, a very good constitution for the people. It is not created yet, the Constitution, and the reason for that is we're waiting to
Kind of feels like that's something you should have.
have more of a critical mass of
Do you even have some equivalent to the Articles of Confederation?
so that we can engage a dialogue, and then from there, when we have more people, then the Constitution will be drafted and enacted. I can already predict that it will be very inspired from the Constitution of the United States. We'll probably remove the bad stuff, but definitely the good stuff.
Why is a Canadian trying to take from the American Constitution? That's so interesting.
Similar, not the same.
I assume it's because America has many more conservative things going on. I mean, I know that exists in Canada too, I'm very aware. But like, you know, in terms of the MAGA stuff, right-wing people who act like the Constitution only exists for them and their interpretations. Maybe he's picking up on that. Radiology says, one transporter accident give this nothing Riker's beard and he thinks he's a genius. He doesn't deserve that beard.
Of course, we'll adapt to our times and the reality in which we are, but definitely for the
Cultural hegemony, too. In America? Ooh, that's tough. I don't know if I'd agree with that.
people.
There are certainly a lot of things that are, like, culturally similar in America from place to place, but there are differences between, like, California and Louisiana, Washington versus Georgia, you know? There are differences depending on where you are in the country. But there are some things that are the same all over.
So we'll review that in the future when we reach a bit more of a critical mass of citizens. So again, a fair state, that's the essential, is a fair, just state, defender of freedom.
You mean American hegemony worldwide? That makes way more sense.
Antithesis of evil. The point of Taios is, for those who have...
And as we all know, evil is an objective black and white concept that you can be the antithesis of. Like Bizarro to Superman.
The self...
Kano Cable says this was the first Canadian breakaway state.
In 1867, at Portage-la Prairie, Thomas Spence had an idea. He persuaded the local settlers to organize the Republic of Manitoba, with, of course, himself as president. His system of taxation brought claims from the local shoemaker McPherson that the tax money was being used to buy liquor for Spence and his friends.
Dirty, rotten trick! Oh!
President Spence was indignant
Treason! Arrest him!
and sent his entire police force to arrest McPherson. A trial took place that night with McPherson as defendant and Spence as plaintiff.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is about how it would go in, Teos as well.
Court observer John McLean interrupted.
Reminds me a little bit, in the Joseph Smith saga, let's say. I actually don't remember if it was him or if it was Brigham Young. It's either Smith or Brigham Young, I don't remember which, in the town that they had, you know, made, where they settled. In some place, there was a newspaper that was printing stuff that the leader didn't like, so they literally, like, went and disassembled the person's printing press Literally, they did the thing to take away the right of free press. That was Joseph Smith? Okay.
The proceedings.
Who's the judge here?
President Spain.
What? You can act as judge and accuser, Faith.
The trial, the brawl, and the Grand Republic of Manitoba all ended with President Spence's historic words.
For God's sake, men, don't fire! I've a wife and family!
Wow. Cults are bad.
Self-respect, the dignity to realize that they need to live better and elect to move into Taos. Well, these good people they deserve to be defended. They deserve to, and Taos will. Other states will do what they have to do. If they become tyrannical and they oppress, it's their right. As unjust as it is their right to do so within their state. But it has to stop at the boundaries of their territory. They cannot invade other territories. So those
You think you can overturn Canadian legal stuff, so you're doing that.
who are within Taos will be protected from that, because Taos does not under my watch, will not engage in any such behavior. It will be codified seriously in the very fabric of our state that it is not like that. So Taos will be the place, the house of the just. Other than that, well, Taos has its territory, its lands, and I've mentioned that, of course, one can be a citizen and not really move to the lands of Taos, can stay, and eventually we might claim more lands and more territory, expanded territory. But it can still be on a...
You just said that you're not gonna, like, it's wrong to go into other people's territory. You just said you're gonna expand. How do you think that works? You're gonna invent new land? No! You would be annexing the land of Canada. What a psycho.
The continent, it's fine. But Taos has its lands in North America at the moment. And but we have to understand that they are virgin lands. Now, the state of Taos is very young. It was just created. It exists, but it's just created. And there's a lot of work to do to develop it, to build it, to man its institutions, to grow it. And of course, the physical lands have to be created. Right now, a virgin forest. Okay, so today that I'm making this video, we are the 4th, I think the 4th of January 2023. So it's winter in North America. And so in spring, the citizens of Taos, the people that are there, those who want and can, we will reach our lands, and we will begin establishing what I call Camp Zero, or the base camp. Now, this will not be the final place where we may build our town
In Minecraft, this is when I just dig into a mountain and place a bed there.
and capital, but it will be a base camp, an easy entry into our land, because again, it is forested. And from this base camp, citizens of Taos will have a place to go in case of urgency, taking refuge. We can...
Fleeing from justice, as other people would probably call it. You're literally describing the fact that you plan on harboring alleged potential fugitives from justice, and that's your plan. Oh, boy.
And I'll go to base camp. And from the base camp will serve as our entry point as we make our way inside our lands, and then find the area which will become the main town and eventually the capital of our state, which we will grow. So we have to begin from scratch. So there will be tree cutting, deforestation. We have to...
That's how Rome started. I don't think this guy was suckled by a wolf at all. Or suckled a wolf. They suckled a wolf.
make our way, and we have to build our land. Everything remains to be
He doesn't have that wolf milk spirit that built Rome. Rome was built on wolf milk.
built. We have a second chance. We have a second chance. You don't get that every day. We have a second chance. We can build a state the right way, the way the freedom lovers, those who want to be respected in their own beliefs, those who respect others but also want to be respected, those who want to be fair and live by fairness, those who want to live by the laws of God, will have a place to call home and can live forever, protected. So we're going to build our land, but we have a lot of work to do, obviously. So if you're out there, if you feel like
Why are you like this, chat? Why?
it's hopeless, which is many ways it is becoming in other countries and states, and you would like to participate into the building, well, we need you. We need your help. We need your help physically, but also just as a citizen. We need your help. The state will grow by getting more people and people participating. We can't do nothing. We cannot be idle. It's just, I mean, people can be, but we need a core of people that are gonna fight, not a physical battle of war, martial, but fighting in the sense of acting, taking actions, participating in the state and the government. And all of this is what's going to build our state. So we have to act. We have to act now. So go visit our website, and who knows, maybe we'll see you in spring or during the summer. We will need arms. We will need people. We're going to build Camp Zero, build the base camp, and then it's our home. We can live there. We can live there full time.
I don't think this guy's ever played Oregon Trail before. Or he loves dysentery.
To start, there won't be any lands allocated, so we're all going to share it, but then we're going to build our way into the lands, and there we're going to build and start building our state, allocating lands to people, and build our final homes where we're going to live forever, or long term. Start building.
Sume says, liars, you're all liars. You learned it from me, not from Hannah. And Phoenix says Sume is a jealous daddy. He's just mad that you're all giving me attention and not him.
So there you go. It's time to act. Roll up your sleeves, but we do need you. Look it up. So thank you very much. This was an overview video. The website, again, will give more detail as we elaborate over time. May probably do more videos that will look into each theme in more detail, and then depending on what the public mentions or what we discuss in the various groups, then we'll elaborate on that. But we thank you very much for your attention. Look forward to at least talking to you, and maybe someday you'll be with us in our new state. Thank you very much.
So he does have a channel. This was posted in January, and his most recent video was posted 3 weeks ago, but it's not in English. So I don't know what he's saying.
Qui ultimement, même si j'ai fourni beaucoup d'informations, j'ai répondu à beaucoup de questions.
So if he posts videos in English again, and there is one other video we're going to take a quick look at after we take a look at his website, but I can't really talk about it because I don't speak whatever he's speaking here, and then the other video is also in a different language.
Quand ils veulent, hein? Fait que là, vous le réalisez pas.
So anyway, let's take a look at his website real quick. The sovereign state of Teos. Hooray. Let's see. Discordant Vol says, there's a clarity you experience after voiding yourself to the point of near death. Stone Corbell says, how are you going to get water, electricity, food? How is sanitation going to work? How are you going to provide health care? Who's going to build the roads? Who's going to take care of security? Who's going to be the military, etc., etc., etc.? They have God on their side. Have you thought of that? Rachology says, Hannah, when the chat does something nice, I love this community we've built together. Hannah, when Chad does something icky, you deviants are nothing to do with me. Yeah. Just like real children. I'm both incredibly proud and love you all parasocially, and also you disgust me sometimes. It's just parenthood, you know? Let's take a look at some of the public notices from the official state of Teos. This is the public notice of Teos' mission statement, which is nice. True, Sume. True. Here's what it says. By the grace of God Almighty, all states of the world now take due notice of the facts herein stated that the sovereign state of Teos has officially set to sail. I'm assuming that's because he thinks something maritime law. Can I make the document bigger? I can. There you go. Is that better? Hopefully. Maybe that's a little too big. It's a little off screen. How's that? That seems about... Let me actually... I can move this so you can see it better. Better. By the grace of... I read that. Teos has officially set sail and is now navigating in international law under its own sovereignty and from the same wind that is also officially announces that it is elected to adopt its new benevolent mission statement, which consists in becoming a niche and specialized alternative state for worldwide foreign citizens who may be currently dissatisfied with the objectives and goals of their current host state of residence. While Teos entirely respects the individual goals and decisions of its peer states, it remains a recognized fact that dissatisfied citizens feel desperate and having nowhere to express their dissenting views within their state will in time, in an escalating probability of disaster, and as their numbers continue to progress, these citizens may eventually begin to engage in organized seditious activities which may irrevocably damage the political stability and commercial outlook of their host states. Seditious activity like trying to annex part of Canada to be an independent state for your weird religious cult? Allegedly, opinion. Logarth says, don't look now, but in the LGBTQ plus channel on the Discord is full of fursuit drag pics I took for Fursuit Friday. Everyone enjoy. Blows a smooch. Oh, I'll check them out later. Cool. Sovereignty? Am I saying sovereignty? Is sovereignty not a way to say sovereignty? Am I a dumb bitch? Sovereignty. Therefore, the lack of alternatives for the discontent citizens is potentially serious risk of a growing factor of destabilization to the world equilibrium. It almost feels like he's doing like a... No, I'd rather you correct me. I'd rather you correct me when I say things wrong. Thank you. What was I saying? It almost feels like he's saying it's a bunch of nice nation states you have there. It'd be a shame if people did something to it. It's almost like he's trying to make the argument, like, let me make this independent state, or we're all gonna try and overthrow your governments. You've tried. It didn't go well. At least not in the United States. By offering its niche immigration alternative to would-be dissenters, it's interesting that he thinks all dissenters might be of the same mind. I feel like taking all of the obstinate individuals within different societies that the only thing they have in common is that they are... whatever their ethos is, it appears to be antithetical to the society in which they are living. Putting all of those people together is just going to cause conflict, because they're still going to have differences, and we know that they have the kind of personality where they will express those differences severely because they came to your stupid fake state. So it's almost a weird selection bias where, like, you're trying to conglomerate together all the most obstinate, selfish people and have them work together to build a new society. And that's not gonna work. The state of Teos offers an outlet to the dissatisfied where they now have a choice and can hereby rather elect to immigrate. And what happens when they feel dissatisfied in your state? There's always going to be people who disagree with the things happening in your state. Hydrate. This causing a rebalancing of the equation and consequently resulting in the relief of the political pressure which could otherwise mount within the hosting states. The state of Teos considers that it offers a valuable and much required international service as it acts as a benevolent political balancer and equalizer, and consequently the state of Teos acts as a promoter and purveyor of peace. Its unique offering will result in the progressive relief of seditious pressure worldwide, and it will inevitably result in improved international stability and consequently to world peace. It's a bold strategy to invite a bunch of openly seditious individuals to your new government. Do you see how this might go wrong for you? Skifazoa says, yeah, we already made USA, won't work twice. It's almost like, how do I put this? The kind of people who are in charge of revolutions aren't necessarily people who are good at running a stable government. Look at Robespierre, for instance. You know? A revolutionary, and then he got power, and then Reign of Terror. You can look at this all throughout history. The same type of personality that is willing and able to topple a government through violent revolution often is not also the kind of person who's good at running the government in a fair, reasonable way for everyone, as it turns out. That sucks. I'm just saying, in general, power vacuums get filled by something worse many times. Not always, and in the long term, maybe things settle better, but it's something to consider. Joey is strong. Thanks for 26 months. Therefore, the state of Teos respectfully requests from all states... Excuse me. Okay. Therefore, the state of Teos respectfully requests from all states of the world that they remain understanding of the effort to act as a worldwide pressure valve, and if they're so inclined, that these states also offer help and assistance in facilitating the outreach to these discontented citizens in order to render them aware of the alternatives available to them, so that if they so determine, they may choose to immigrate to our alternative state, which in consequence will relieve your own states of otherwise potentially troublesome elements. The state of Teos takes pride in being the missing link to the complex puzzle of world peace by taking on the mission of becoming the benevolent host and catalyst to the balance of seditious elements. Is anyone familiar with the term delusions of grandeur? Just a non sequitur. Just curious. The state of Teos is thankful for your attention, and from its neutral stance offers to all of it. Just saying you're neutral doesn't make you neutral, for the record. Even if you choose not to choose, you still have made a choice. I heard that somewhere. Therefore, the state of Teos respectfully requests from all states all of the world that they remain understanding of the effort to act as a worldwide pressure valve, and if they're so inclined, blah blah blah, I read that. State of Teos is thankful for your attention, neutral stance, to all of its friends, allies, which include all the states of the world, in most sincere regard, and we look forward to achieving universal peace together. Signed by our state confirmation and evidence of these facts on the 3rd day of March, 2023, signed by Michael Leonard Anderson, President of the Sovereign State of Teos. Also, apparently, Teos claims that they have their own official notary. Don't know who this is, don't know if this is that guy, or if it's someone else. It just says Grand Notary Public. And it is a notary stamp that says Notary of the Sovereign State of Teos, Grand Notary, State of Teos. For the record, I'm not sure, but I would imagine within Canada it is probably a crime to forge a fake, like, seal like this. Like, you have to be registered generally to be like a notary public. And this is like a made-up seal that they made. So I don't know if that'll fly. Just putting it out there. I'm pretty sure that might be, in my opinion, sounds like something that might be fraudulent, but I have no official, like, thing to cite there. So that's the first document that they've posted. This is pretty funny. I don't know if other people have covered this guy, or if he just preempted this and knew this was going to happen. But this is a document in which he warns people, basically commentators on YouTube, not to make fun of him, or else. I wonder who that signs for. Here's the official notice. Pretty sure this was posted like yesterday, by the way, or a day or so ago. Public notice of personal criminal responsibility and liability for engaging in public acts of libel against the sovereign states of Teos. First of all, Mr. King, it's only libel if it's in print. It's slander if it's spoken. Please get it right. Notice to one is notice to all under the doctrine. Notice to agents is notice to principals, and notice to principals is notice of agents. He is me, and you are me, and she is he, cuckoo, cuckoo. Oh god. There's a French thing. In case of conflict between the versions, the English version will always take precedence. That's interesting. The sovereign state of Teos, hereafter also Teos, formally notifies all international foreign individuals and or organizations, hereafter the commentators, which intend to publicly comment on Teos and or its citizens, that any and all public comments and or allegations made regarding our territory must always remain absolutely and objectively factual in both facts and law, as the truth in fact is to be receivable in a just and impartial court of law. Very true. That's why everything in this video is, of course, just my opinion. I would never state anything that wasn't my opinion. I would never state facts. Failure to do so by the commentators would be engaging in a public act of libelous and injurious criminal aggression towards our sovereign territory, and by intentionally causing Teos undue harm, does grant our full state full jurisdiction to defend against libel. Again, it is slander. You claim you study law and you don't know the difference between libel and slander, and therefore to take action in law to remedy the injuries caused by the commentators, which may hereafter lead to criminal complaints being filed within our own sovereign courts of justice. Ooh, which may also potentially lead to the issuance of warrants, indictments, and also consequently a potential criminal conviction, which may thereafter result in extremely severe criminal penalties. It is reminded to all that ignorance of the law is no excuse. He's a judge. I'm fucked. Look, guys, I'm a judge too. I'm making laws like an adult. I know how the law works. I made my own state. I'm definitely not delusional, and my kids are gonna hate me someday. Bum bum bum. That's when the beat drops. I almost hope he sends me something bullshit legal from his fake courts. That would be amazing as a souvenir to put back here. The state of Teos therefore strongly recommends that commentators which publicly discuss the state of Teos and or its citizens always remain fully honorable, and do so only when fully and strongly supported by provable objective facts, or rather otherwise that they remain solely within the territories of their own respective states, so that all may respect each other and coexist internationally in peace and harmony. That basically sounded like a threat, like, if you say anything I don't like, you better stay out of my fake state. You know, I didn't plan on coming to your bullshit state, so I think I'll be fine. Gnome Pickles says, this is like walking into high school as a young boy and presenting a note from your mother asking the bullies to be nice to you, and I'm sure it's just as effective. And again, then there's the signature, yada yada yada, says it again in other languages. And then it says, I, the Grand Notary of the State of Teos, was visited today on this 25th day of July 2023 by the President of the State of Teos, Mr. Michael Leonard Anderson, who provided me with 2 pieces of ID. Or was it Teos ID, or were these Canadian IDs? 2 pieces of ID, therefore confirming his identity, and he did issue and sign the official public notice in my presence, whereupon I certified that the foregoing paragraph is true and correct, and I affix my signature and seal as testimony to these facts. And then again, there's that notary stamp that they made up for their state. Man, these people think notaries are way more important than they actually are. This happens to a lot of sovereign citizen types. They think that notaries make something true. Like, if a notary stamps something, that means the courts will be like, this is true. Whatever's in this document is true. That's not what notaries do. Notaries are there to take a signature and verify signatures. That's it. It has nothing to do with whether or not the document is accurate or has any power. How many people are in this state? I have no idea. I really don't. Public notice of creation of the Teos Public Land Record digital access page. I'll take due notice that the sovereign state of Teos has hereby created on this day its own official public land record digital access website page, where digital copies of the formally recorded entries which are officially recorded in the land jurisdiction through the recorder of deeds of the state of Teos will from now on be publicly published. publicly published. I maybe edit that. And accessible at all times. I would have maybe said publicly available. I don't know. Publicly published just doesn't sound right. And accessible at all times in order for the entire world to take due notice. The official Teos Public Land Records website page can hereby be found at the public URL. Don't you love when legal documents, even fake ones, just write out a thing like this? Oh, it's not even a hyperlink. Access the land records at your will and pleasure, and you are also expected to store copies for permanent storage in your own archives, as the public value of these records is to remain forever accessible, as they are considered fully published, notified, and archived by the public, and this for all times. So I want to be clear, if this Teos guy sees this video, you gave permission, these are public, and also your video where you actually talked about basically your manifesto. At the time of watching this, it is published under a Creative Commons license, meaning that you explicitly uploaded it, saying that other people could use it. So if you try any dumb bullshit, just don't waste the time. Work on your stupid pet project, okay? You gave permission for this. And that's the evidence, because I just recorded that. Not that it matters anyway, because fair use is a thing, but just wanted to cover all my bases here. I've been doing this long enough that I know to cover my asshole. At least most of the time. Read that one. Read that one. Deed of Conveyance, Freedom City. Oh boy. That page is bullshit. We're going to do about the state. Oh god, this is going to be terrible. Primus of Mechanus is also a notary. Steve with the Q says, so this grand notary verifies the president's 2 IDs every single time? IDs, please. It's me, Michael. You want your stamp? You present your IDs. Okay, I don't need the preamble. As previously mentioned, tyranny is increasing rapidly around the world against the free thinkers and the independent, and it's through such a time that the state of Teos unexpectedly came to be. At the end of 2021, the living man, who is now known in person as King Regis Lucius I, again, my understanding is that's a Final Fantasy reference, and his happy family were taken by mistake into a storm of pain and suffering when the police of the foreign state of Canada, not a foreign state, it's where you were living, it's where you still live, even though you think you're not, made the mistake of a pre-crime and stormed the house of the man for no good reason at all. That's certainly a one-sided version of events. I think Sandris will maybe take a look later as a cleanse. Expecting to find something that did not exist, the police sent a squadron of many dozen foreign agents to search a house without right. If dozens of police were at your house, I'm really curious what they were looking for, if I'm being honest. Notwithstanding that the police broke multiple rules of international law. The international community isn't doing anything about American cops, and you think they're going to do something about Canadian cops who probably weren't doing something wrong here because you're clearly a psycho, in my opinion. The police sent a squadron of many dozens of foreign agents to search a house without right. Notwithstanding that the police broke multiple rules of international law, they also called CPS in order to summon foreign agents to kidnap the children and take them away from their loving parents. Again, don't know your relationship with the kids. Can't really speak to that. Discordant Vol says, my bet, guns? That would make sense. Because there are guns that you can own in Canada, but there are definitely guns you cannot own in Canada. Sume says, ah yes, Canada, famous war crime committing state, totally cares about international laws. Despite that there was no right nor reason to do so, as the children were living in a loving family who was simply in the temporary process of moving between houses. So is this a situation where they were perhaps homeless for a time and the children were taken away? But that doesn't really make sense because, like, if they broke in wherever you were clearly somewhere. Was it just a hotel? I don't know. But this did not matter to the foreign states of Quebec and Canada, because once caught up in their system, even if only by mistake, the game became to ensure that the whole family was entirely subservient to the foreign states, and to enforce their uncompromising servitude. The living man had begun learning about the law as a hobby, and facing difficult odds, he decided to use the law in order to attempt to protect his family from these foreign agents which had no right to intervene in their lives and their family. Again, if they were there, I'm assuming Canadian courts disagreed. If there was really a raid of your property, or the property you were on, it was probably done through a search warrant of some kind, or an arrest warrant. So clearly, the courts disagree. While using the law and also requesting that human rights be respected in the courts of law should have brought a swift end to these ordeals, it had the unexpected opposite effect of unnaturally prolonging these matters for well over a year now. Yeah, doing sovereign citizen bullshit in court tends to make things worse. Look at Darrell Brooks, for instance, and the Kenosha trial. That was a shit show. These matters are still ongoing to this day. The man, knowing a fair amount about law and rights, began requesting that the courts and their agents prove their authority. And him being in the right, he gets to determine that. I don't think he knows how courts work. The courts and the agencies of Canada and Quebec resorted to corruption and deprivation of rights in order to artificially maintain their false authority. They took your kids, it seems pretty real to me. A long series of court battles ensued, and the man attempted multiple times to obtain justice in various superior courts. And every time he made some headway, the further and more bold the corruption of the courts of Quebec and Canada became, to the point where the courts and judges resorted to clear and evident fraud, which he's not going to list here, but it's clear and evident, and corruption in order to deny justice, and also to seemingly justify the completely corrupt continuance of these matters. The state were not willing to admit that they had to abdicate the matters. Maybe it's because they didn't. Have you considered it's because they do not have to abdicate the matter and absolutely have jurisdiction over you? Because that's what's happening, if you would step outside your delusion for a second. And in order to achieve this, they entered into full corruption and became entirely lawless. This is what we're dealing with. Justice is dead. Oh. Harold Elbleman says something funny. Says, by the way, hi King, whatever your name was. What's it like knowing there are more people watching this stream live and mocking you than'll ever live in your sad little kingdom? That's true. There's 211 people right now. I don't think he'll get that many. And if he did, it would be a shit show. Reno Redhead says the living man demanded in court that his name be written in all caps, as that is how his name is written and pronounced, so technically this guy is saying his name wrong. Gnome Pickles, he's referring to himself as the living man. Many of them refer to themselves as the living man. Gnome Pickles says, accusing the courts of fraud, interesting from a man who wrote a document asking people not to commit libel against him. I'm just imagining the scene from The Office where Michael thinks Jan cheated on him, and he's like, you cheated on me? After I directly asked you not to? The intensity and length of these battles, which have lasted for well over a year now, and the sheer corruption of the legal courts involved, has the effect of creating the rare and unusual circumstances where a new nation could take life within the ashes of this ordeal. You're not a phoenix. Please don't. And the living man, knowing enough law to assemble the necessary pieces of the puzzle which were required to assemble a new state, and him also having the heart to cry out to the world that there is no other way to live but to live freely, and not to submit into servitude to tyranny, saw no other options to save his family from sure slavery and servitude, from this lawless corruption, than to building a new country. And it's through the fires of hell that the man was forged and tempered, and through the pain and suffering of severe burns and blisters he experienced, he saw no other way to restore their freedom than to take action, and he established himself as a new sovereign king in the realm. The fucking realm. Do Do you think it's not a legal document if you don't talk like you're from a fucking Renaissance fair? What a non-serious human being. Chromatic Cuttlefish says he's not much of a prose stylist either. And it is through the ashes of those battles that the state of Teos was born. On the 7th day of September, 2022, the sovereign state of Teos was created in law by and through the sovereignty of its king, and from a glimmer of hope was created in law. By and through the sovereignty of its king, and from a glimmer of hope, it began as a small legal embryo. From there it grew to take the full shape in international law. From the necessity of dream and into reality in 2023, the state of Teos is now ready to welcome more people as citizens and to grow in order to navigate the seas of fate on its own and begin offering a new hope to those who want to live in a fair and just country. Let me say this, if this started as a legal embryo, it is a stillbirth. Your country's not real. It's not how any of this works. The return of the king. Now it is enough. When a society spoils and rots to a point where a country crushes its people without reason, and that the air becomes no longer breathable, people must do something about it, or otherwise perish for accepting the lives as slaves. Have you guys seen the movie Captain Fantastic? This guy should probably watch Captain Fantastic. This is one trade-off that was just not acceptable to King Regis Lucius I. Again, Regis just means king, so his name is King Lucius I. As there is no other way for the righteous to live but to live free and live by justice and truth. And just as when a forest becomes rotten, it is also ripe for a fire and the following inevitable renewal which ensues. This is how Teos begins its life today. The main, blah blah blah, the name Teos, he talked about that. Sovereignty. As a sovereign state, 1 second, I got a message from my wife. Let me check. Ooh! That looks really good. We need to go Baja. As a sovereign state, Teos is an equal to every other nation and state in the world. Is it, though? Is it, though? And therefore, so comes the strength of its protection, and the very reason why it was made to be. Teos goes by the thinking that those who live by the sword will perish by the sword, and those who live by the pseudo-law bullshit will probably get arrested by the pseudo-law bullshit at some point. Except that'll be by actual police. Teos goes by the thinking that those who live by the sword will perish by the sword, and therefore Teos understands the importance of maintaining peace with its fellow foreign states, and therefore the importance of engaging them only through diplomacy and international law, as if there's like any... Oh, I'm not gonna... Yeah, don't want to be specific in talks. Sorry, I blanked on it. Oh, as if you had any other means of interacting, like you're gonna go to war with Canada, with you and your buddies out in the woods, drinking pee or whatever you do. That's a joke. The world has proliferated into a minefield of deadly weapons of war and cataclysmic potential, and notwithstanding that more established states can themselves no longer afford war as universal destruction is now near assured. Then, a small state like Teos would have no hope by flexing any muscles against anyone. No, Teos is in no such thing, and violence and force is no longer useful in our current world, but rather Teos navigates the seas of fate by the strength of neutrality, peace and diplomacy. Teos is a peaceful state, entirely neutral, will not arm itself, and will never go on any martial offense against anyone. You literally couldn't. Of course you're not. You literally can't. It would be like me being like, guys, I'm totally, I don't know who like who's the like best MMA fighter, who's a great MMA fighter, like I don't know MMA fighter, someone name an MMA fighter. I'm gonna take a drink while you do. Brock Lesnar, sure. It would be like me being like, I promise, guys, I won't start a fight with Brock Lesnar. Like, no shit, why would you? I'd get my shit kicked in. I would literally get murdered. Like, why, of course. Teos recognizes the other states as equals. Well, they don't recognize you. And as friends and allies, and respects them as it demands to be respected also. Insert, we demand to be taken seriously. Arrested Development bit. Teos will rather ensure that it is respected by using the power of international law, which everyone follows international law to a T, and this guy definitely understands it. Where all states are equal no matter their legacy and commercial success, where the fair and just prevail, and this is the true might of the state, and the very reason that the king had the vision to establish this state in the first place. It's through these tools that justice can be restored, as more and more people around the world will realize that their current country do not reflect and protect them anymore, and that immigration becomes inevitable, and that this is the right choice for their future. I'm skimming at this point because it's been so fluffy and just vacuous. It feels like he doesn't want to say any specific stances he has, and it's so sus. Oh. What a weirdo. The territory. Oh, he thinks he took that much. I think the purple is where he thinks he has established a new state. That's fucking hilarious. One of the first questions that comes to mind when a new state is created is, does the new state have defined territory? And the answer is a resounding yes. Reno Redhead says, how often do you think he used a thesaurus paired with Black's Law Dictionary? Oh, does he own that island too? That's true, there is an island. I guess that's his. The Sovereign King Regis Lucius The Sovereign King Regis Lucius has officially claimed. That's grammatically incorrect. Apparently they don't have a royal editor yet. King Regis Lucius it's supposed to be the first. Duh. I'm an idiot. That's my fault. I take blame for that. I'll take the L on that one. The Sovereign King Regis Lucius I has officially claimed his territory by his own right, and therefore it's done and awarded to the state of Teos in international law. That's not how this works. In international law, you can't just go and be like, hey, this is mine now. That's not how that works. Juggle? Okay, I'll juggle and try and read at the same time. This should be interesting. You see, the areas of lands which were already privatized before the creation of Teos already belong to another foreign country, and therefore cannot be claimed. But the areas which were still unclaimed at the time of the creation of Teos, and therefore remained as public lands, and therefore by definition did not belong to anyone, as they remained unused, which has forfeited any presumed prior claims, were still available, and the king has evidently claimed these public lands, and the territory of the state of Teos is now officially its own. The neighboring foreign states of Quebec and Canada have already been informed of this fact, and have already acquiesced, as it is not their choice to make, and the territory of Teos is now fact and settled in international law. Saying it doesn't make it true, sir. Sorry, Your Highness. Now, it must be mentioned that while Teos does have areas of land as its own, it is not the full extent of its territory, as Teos is an international state, and therefore citizens are always within the territory of their homeland, no matter where they are in the world! That's not how any law works anywhere on Earth! What are you talking about? Are you psycho? What the fuck? Yeah, I'm gonna go to North Korea and shit talk the Kim Jong-un, and then I'm gonna be like, I'm an American though, so I have free speech. That's how that works. Genius. And for this reason, they always benefit from the protection of their home state no matter where they are. Basically, you're saying that you aren't going to interfere with other states, but you're saying that the fact that people claim they're from our state means that you can't enact justice or law within your own state without the consent of Teos, which isn't how anything works, and it certainly isn't being neutral or not interfering. Discordant Vol says, I am the embassy. Chromatic Cuttlefish says, fun fact, you don't normally bother to tack first on a rain name until you need it for disambiguation. It's still Queen Anne and Queen Victoria, not the first. He doesn't know that, though, and he thinks it sounds impressive to say the first because it implies there'll be the second. Or maybe he already is a kid with the name Junior. It's possible. And he wants to differentiate. Despite the international nature of the territory, the physical homeland of the state is mostly concentrated on two major areas that are here exemplified. Patriot County and Freedom City. It's called Freedom City. Oh, I don't know what Canada looks... I don't know where... does anyone Canadian recognize this lake? This area? I don't know. The lake that, like, the city's by, or whatever. No, wait, the blue is just Freedom City, and it's in Patriot County, but there's a lot of water. Okay, I gotcha. It does actually look like it's near a lake, though. Gnome Pickle says, I wonder how I can break more laws after claiming I seceded from Canada. Oh, I know, I'll claim ownership of others and inject my fake state into the legal system of other sovereign nations. This surely won't piss people off enough to deal with the headache of dealing with me. I know he would just be senior, but in his head, that might be why he thinks he should say the first. I'm not saying it's right. I'm trying to explain his state of mind, hypothetically. The mainland is composed of the following area, which is where the state intends to begin developing its core nation, and most importantly, where we will establish its capital city. The area is composed of the northern bank of the Ottawa River, north of the foreign town of Mattawa. Mattawa? Is that what it is? Mattawa? The City of Freedom can be seen in the southern portion. The weather of the state and its hardiness zones can be ascertained here. So, I can see Deep River, Ontario, and Mattawa, Ontario below them. Okay. The more detailed map of the area can be accessed here. Ooh, a detailed map, you say? Oh my goodness. Wow. There's Mattawa. And there's Deep River down at the bottom there. And then here's Patriot County and Freedom City. Discordant Vol says, oh, it's Elohim City. He's just building Canadian Elohim City. Yeah, basically. Therefore, it is in these areas that the first people of Teos will colonize and begin building their new homes under their own authority. In the future, as the state grows, it will surely claim a larger territory as the need increases. Oh, great. Quite possibly in other areas around the world. So you're going to annex more land. Kind of seems like you're not being as neutral as you think you are. It isn't government land, it's First Nations land. Oh! So he's trying to steal land from indigenous people! As is tradition. What a fucking asshole. Oh, he should probably get reported then. What a fucker. I didn't care too much when he was just, like, being a dumbass doing stuff to Canada, but, like, that's actually shitty. Curious what he has for the economy. Fate, it seems, is not without a sense of irony, and it is such a case here with Teos. The man who created the state and came to personify King Regis is also the creator and inventor of one of the few, if not the only viable technological alternative to the worldwide system of central banking digital currencies, which are soon to make their great unveiling worldwide. While the CBDCs will not be anonymous, Teos has all the technology required to create a full digital currency, which has everything required to succeed in digital commerce and remain competitive with other states. While remaining entirely anonymous and independent, just like digital cash, while a paper cash form of the currency may very well also be offered for everyday use by its citizens, there's no avoiding the fact that all other states in commerce are going digital, and Teos has the know-how to remain entirely competitive in such a digital world economy, while remaining independent with a completely unique system of its own, which respects the freedom of its people. Therefore, the state of Teos will be unique in having its own currency, created through its own central bank, which will not be based on any debt, and this in and of itself is a revolution in the world of states. Teos will be entirely self-sufficient, and the currency will be based on the most modern theory of inflation, which will ensure both a long-term stability and flexible economy for its citizens, something that has never been seen in history to this time. Now, without an electrical grid, you won't... Okay, so here comes the part of the story where I do the reveal. I looked into this guy. I was able to find his legal name, along with the legal name of some other members of his family, which of course I'm not going to share, because why would I? I'm not going to dox this person, even though I think he's a dumbass. And I did some investigating, and I was able to find some businesses, a business, I should say, where he is listed, along with someone else who I believe is probably his wife, started a cryptocurrency company. Let me pull it up real quick. Oh boy. Neuralium. Neuralium. Let me make sure there's nothing in this that's... No, there's not an exact address, so I can show this. Neuralium. Neuralium. Terrible company name. This is their, one of their pages. According to this, they offer financial services. It's a company to do a shit coin, basically. Here's their website on the Wayback Machine. The website's down. I assume they gave up on this shit coin, so I had to go to the Wayback Machine to find their old website. So this guy's been doing weird stuff for a while. Let's take a look at this Wayback Machine page from his deleted company. The Neuralium is a brand new crypto token that does things differently. It's designed to enable the future of crypto economy while saving the Earth. You can mine in full confidence that you are helping to save the world while participating in the new economy 2.0. We designed the Neuralium to be easy to use and completely universal. It's meant to be for everyone. Come chat with us. I did research? I did. Logard says, sounds like a mineral they exploit that's only found on a planet covered in indigenous people. Oh, unobtainium. You're describing unobtainium. Let's take a look. They also have an old Instagram page. Everything from these pages, I just want to point out, very similar to his stuff about the country he has. It's all incredibly vague. Look at this. We are continuously testing and working to improve our unique user experience. In order to implement some improvements, we've decided to delay the release of the Neuralium token. We plan to announce the release in the coming weeks. Which never happened. First coin to achieve these three things will rule the roost, accepted by mainstream merchants. Super easy to use, easy recoverable if keys lost. I guess they think Neuralium was going to be that? The future of mining is green and mobile. See what I mean? It's a lot of, like, generic, like, crypto bullshit buzzwords. Gnome Pickle says, Sir, I understand you think this is a great idea, but I can assure you Luxembourg and Angora exist and had this idea of being little tax havens that screw with currency first, and we're now at capacity for weird little micronations built to exploit economic weirdness. And Logarth says, sorry, Neuralium is the stuff they mine out of the brains of space giants. Oh, God. Let's look at their facts page. They have a white paper, too, apparently. I don't know if it's still available, though. Oh, this was the facts page, maybe. Was it? Oh, God. Some of the links work, others don't. While we're doing that, let's see something that he posted in a local paper. He posted a classified in the paper, and I think he thinks this classified ad is part of the reason that this bullshit is legal, so let me read it. It says, the living man on the land, Jean Denis of the blank family, known by the trade name blank blank, and his wife, also on the land, blank of the blank family, known by the trade name blank blank, currently living in Lower Canada and lawfully married on the land before God on December 18th, 2008, announces that they have created 3 new lives, all born on the land, a daughter on September 1st, 2011, and a son on June 7th, 2013. So one of the kids is 10 now, and one of the kids is 12. And another son September 2016. Ooh boy, a young one. Whose trade names shall be respectively blank, blank, and blank. And they now claim their new creations as their true-born daughter and 2 sons, heirs and dependents, and also announce that their heirs are alive and healthy and well on the land as of today. They jointly agree to transfer to them all their claims and rights to the common law copyrights and trademarks, and all derivatives thereof of each trade name, and that they create and donated to each respective heir automatically when they reach the age of 18. They also jointly agree to emancipate their heirs automatically when they reach the age of 18, and declare before all men and nations that they are otherwise subject only to God and for this eternity. So I'm assuming basically he thinks that's basically equivalent to a birth certificate, proof of birth. I think he thinks it's going to give his kids sovereign rights or some bullshit. It doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, the other page is on the Wayback Machine. Oh, this one maybe does. Will this one load? This one looks like it's loading, maybe. Although I think this is just the About page and not everything's loading. That's a shame. Anyway, there's also a YouTube channel for this cryptocurrency. All the videos have been deleted. So I assume he kind of gave up on this at some point to focus on, I guess, the nation building thing. I don't know. I just find it interesting. Here's what he says on another page, on a description. For one, we wanted to stop destroying the Earth, so you got into cryptocurrency? What is wrong with you? Seriously, we should not mortgage the future of humanity for mining decimals of a token. We're better than that. Thus, Neuralium was designed explicitly with true green mining in mind. And I can't read the rest without installing a fucking thing that I'm not installing to my computer. Jesus Christ. Rate him as a chief executive officer. Or rate him as low. Because I think that's funny. Okay. Rated as low. There's also programs that you can download for your computer on his website, and of course I'm not touching those with a 10 million foot pole. But he did have stuff on his website where you can like download, and I don't know if it has anything to do with what he thinks is going to be the future peer-to-peer currency or what. But either way, not great. So anyway, I don't know if there's anything else I needed to cover today about him. Let me actually launch this cleanse real quick, someone sent. Oops, that's the wrong screen. There it is. Tom Baker is trending, so here's that old favorite of him appearing increasingly deranged as Professor Plum in the 90s ITV game show Cluedo. I didn't even know that was a game show in the UK. Discordant Vol says, oh, that thing will turn your PC into a mining bot. Oh, for sure, I'm sure.
Or did Professor Plum stop at nothing to stop the press? Or did Professor Plum's dark secret force him to finish off the fiancée? Or did Professor Plum find the fatal formula to save his reputation? Or was none minus one the sinister solution for Professor Plum? Or did Professor Plum fund his future by burying gold? Or did a ghost from the past drive Professor Plum to a deadly deed?
That's funny. What a treasure. I guess there was a video where he walked around the property and talked about it. That might be interesting to watch a little bit of before I call it a night. I don't know how much is even in this. It's an hour long. We'll save it. I'll save this video and we'll maybe watch it on another Sopsit stream. Cool. So anyway, have a great night, everyone. Let's see who we're going to do a raid on. I had a lot of fun talking about this guy and his crazy fake country today. Reminder that everything I said was just my opinion, of course. And I look forward to seeing anything else he does in the future, if we see any more, or if we watch that other video. Alright, have a good night, everyone. And I'll see y'all later. I'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow, which will be a maid day because of the donation. And also, oh, what else was I gonna say? Oh, it's gonna be Barbie review stuff. Barbie review stuff. If Mr. Blast is here. Oh, he is. Love you too, Mr. Blast. Have a great night, everyone. See you tomorrow.